Good evening and welcome to the June 5th, 2017 meeting of the Merrimack School Board. If you could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you very much. Item number 2 is public participation. If anyone from the public would like to speak during public participation, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. If it's a student, just your name and grade. First name and grade. And I will close public participation. We're on to item number 3, which is the focus on student voice and inquiry at Merrimack Middle School. I invite to the table Principal Adam Carragher, Assistant Principal Shauna DeMore, and they can introduce their educators and students. Thank you for coming.
So thank you very much for having us this evening. It's always wonderful. It's always great to be able to come here and kind of highlight a couple of different events or different things, occurrences, instances of from the middle school. And so we do have quite a group of staff and students who are here. And as we call them up, I'm going to have them introduce themselves as opposed to stopping right now and introducing everybody. So, you know, as we wrap up our 2016-17 school year, we can say it was a year full of enriching academic and social experiences for our students and staff. We'd like to recap some of the highlights from this year, so I'm going to pass it over to Mrs. DeMore to talk a little bit about some of the community building activities that were involved this year.
Hi, thanks for having us. So some of the community building activities that we'd like to highlight we had Jeff Yalden, a youth motivational speaker. He came, delivered the message to our students that they need to take time to think. We participated in the first ever New Hampshire Youth Opioid Summit. And recently, over 20 girls donated hair to Pantene Beautiful Lengths, our second year participating in this worthy cause. And that stemmed last year from a student bringing it to our attention who had a family member that had cancer and brought it to our health teacher, Maggie Croto, and she ran with it. And last year we had about 6 girls donate, and this year was over 20. And their families came, and even the students at the high school came back to watch.
So related to the sports, some of the highlights we would throw out to you, the field hockey team that won the Tri-County Championship. 7th grade girls and boys basketball teams took home the championship titles. Aiden Hanning, an 8th grade student who was nationally ranked middle school wrestling champion. Our girls track team recently placed 3rd in the Tri-County Division I Tri-County meet. Our girls softball team this last Friday, won the Tri-County, which is their first title since 2001. So go girls! And of course, one of the highly sought after tickets to be able to come and watch the students and the staff in the student staff basketball game. So just some of the highlights of the different sporting events that have occurred and the different teams and their achievements over the course of this year.
You know what I just found out, too, about the softball? That some of the Merrimack police officers escorted the buses back into Merrimack when they arrived back into town, that was really neat. Our school resource officer, Detective Prentice, just told me that before I came. So some of the clubs that continued, and we had a lot of new clubs to kind of enrich the kids' social experiences outside the classroom as well. We had our sewing clubs that continued with great popularity. Newly formed Science Olympiad, who placed 3rd in a regional competition. We had a newly formed art club that recently made cards for veterans to honor Memorial Day. A STEM club. We had 3 first Lego League clubs, a chess club, a new and a highly popular rock climbing club, ski snowboard club, quiz bowl, student council, intramurals, Destination Imagination, and I want to highlight that we had 2 successful drama club performances of The Jungle Book and The Secret Garden. And last year, I know some high school students from Merrimack High School came and talked about some of the work they were doing with the clubs, and they continued to reach out, and they did some joint field trips, and we visited the high school, and they also came down throughout the year.
So we'd also like to just throw out some accolades for a seventh grader, Jillian Dorff, who won the Lions Club Peace Poster competition for Merrimack School District as well as the state of New Hampshire, which is quite an amazing accomplishment. Her artwork was ultimately displayed in Washington, D.C. Also, hot off the press, as I know many of the school board members are appreciative, our PTG just announced that they reached their goal for the non-fundraiser fundraiser. So the first time in its history, its short history, that has happened. Also this year, the introduction of 5 computers on wheels, we call them cows, into the middle school, which has brought a lot of technology into the hands of the students in the classroom.
So using August Academy as a foundation, staff were encouraged to collaborate and develop student-led, inquiry-based interdisciplinary units. And we're really excited to be able to share 2 instances of this type of learning that took place in the building this year.
All right. So at this time, we're going to look over to our left, and we have our 7th grade team that's going to talk a little bit about their experience related to the interdisciplinary units. We also have just some pictures, a small PowerPoint that you can follow along with related to this event. Okay? Over to you guys.
So, setting the scene and so hi, my name's Gavin and I'm from Team 7-1. So setting the scene, starting in December, we were walking into the social studies classroom and I saw something on the homework board and it read, "Bring in paper towel rolls." And I went and I thought to myself, what are we doing with these paper towel rolls? What are we doing with these cardboard tubes? We had no information about what we were doing yet, but we went with it. And the class went by, and then at the end of the class, Mr. Chappella told us we are going to be collecting 400 to 600 cardboard tubes for a mystery project that we're doing. So I'm thinking, golly, what's the project that we're doing? So everyone has to collect the cardboard tubes. So I go home, I rummage through everything I possibly can to find as many cardboard tubes as I can to bring back to school. Because I was curious and I didn't know what we were going to do at the school. So we bring it back, and soon enough, we have bags upon bags on the side of the room just full of paper towel rolls. And it wasn't just our team that contributed to this. We had also other teams that brought in paper towel rolls too. And we definitely surpassed our goal of 400 to 600 cardboard tubes. We had over 1,000 cardboard tubes in our room, which obviously was very messy. So we had 2 months of not knowing anything about what the project was. I was thinking, well, maybe we're decorating our room with 1,000 paper towel rolls, but that's probably not what was going to happen. So Mr. Chappella would keep giving us hints about what we were doing, little teasers that would only make us more and more curious, but no one really got the memo. No one really got what we were trying to do. And then February rolls along, and we're given this new unit. It's a unit on Rome. So we're given a vocabulary list, and there's one word, and it's an aqueduct. And he brings in a rubber duck, and that's when Abby gets the idea of finding out what the project is going to be about.
So I'm Abby, and well, it was like it just popped into my head, and I was thinking aloud, and I thought, well, aqueduct, duct sort of sounds like duck, so I thought, well, we must be making aqueducts, and I was right. But at first I was doubtful because we just had cardboard tubes, and if we were going to be running lots of water down these tubes, it would sort of ruin pretty quick. So that went along for the whole week. And the first day of the project, it was sort of chaotic. Everyone was thinking, should we have leaders, should we have groups? Some people went by themselves to work. It was really loud. But the things that really threw us off were the challenges. 4 classes were split into half. 2 classes had the challenge of taking their aqueduct under a ravine, and two classes had the challenge of taking their aqueduct around with a sharp corner around a mountain. And yeah, that was like through the week.
So once people started, I'm Maddie. So people started getting excited and energetic since they finally knew what was going on, but they were also like Abby said, they were pretty doubtful that it was going to work, and so people started out really excited, and then once the week went by, it was kind of getting people were getting doubtful and kind of frustrated because of all the ideas that have been thrown out from people, and people getting frustrated that maybe their idea wasn't used, but then everyone kind of came together and made it all work. And once it got to about the last day, everyone was just trying to make everything come together and make sure everything was ready to go for team time. And mostly everyone finished, and then once team time came, we took down the big wall and we moved 2 of the aqueduct parts to the other side of the room, which kind of wrecked them a little bit. But so we connected them to this big bucket in the middle, and we connected it all together, and people kind of fixed up any problems, and we got started, and the principals poured the water in, and it got a little messy because they poured it a little too fast, but and then it started going, and it wasn't filling up quite enough in the bucket fast enough, so then Mr. Costa poured it in, and it went really fast, and it just started pouring over, and there was a lot of leaks and a lot of messes, but it went to the end, and it failed but also worked, so yeah.
Hi, I'm Julia, and I'm going to be talking about the interdisciplinary piece of it. And we had to incorporate all of our classes to make this into one giant aqueduct. So in math, we had to learn about slope, which is the steepness of a line, and we had to figure out how steep it would go, and that would affect how if it would build up in one spot and that would cause it to overflow, or if it would cause it to go too fast and that would make it overflow also. And in science, we learned about the water cycle, which is water being evaporated and precipitation. And we had to do a whole project on it where we built either a 3D model or we made a poem or a song, and you could present it in front of the whole class. And then we learned about stagnant water, which is still water. And we collected water samples, which is from the back of our school and the trails. We have found some streams that weren't moving, and we took water samples and we brought it up and we put it under microscopes, and we found a bunch of bacteria, and we learned that there's a lot of water, stuff in water that you can't see that could harm you. And that's why the Romans had to figure out a way to make sure that the water was moving so that it wouldn't cause bacteria to get inside of their systems. And in language arts, we wrote haiku and tanka poems about water and aqueducts, and also the survival part of it. And we went outside, so we sort of get a big piece of it. And in tape, there were 2 tapes, and in one of them, people found out how much water they could use. So some people, how much water they use a day. Some people figured out that they used at least 50,000 gallons of water a day. And in tape 2, some people figured out how aqueducts were used in Rome each day. And in tech ed, we had to figure out the architectural piece of it in the building. And that sort of gave a pathway to knowing how to make sure it would stay up and not fall over. And yeah.
All right, so I'm Tim. I'm in 7th grade. I'm going to be talking about
how the group kind of worked, even though there was like no one really running the group. So basically, like everyone kind of instinctively gravitated toward a leader. Like some people were like, okay, who's gonna be a leader? And like honestly, I kind of resisted that because especially with a headstrong leader, you kind of lose a lot of ideas, which isn't good. Because like there might be like this really good idea laying around, but the leader's like, no, that's a stupid idea, and I don't know, not many people are happy. So like after that kind of sorted itself out, like everyone just kind of coalesced into groups, like, and started doing different things. Like what I found interesting was that when the as whole aesthetics thing was added, was that like 3/4 of the people went straight to aesthetics. I don't know why, but I guess that's just how things work. But and I like the whole go do stuff approach from Mr. Chappella, because that kind of had to make us think, like, and try not to have fights break out. And honestly worked really well in the end. And it was honestly a lot better than a giant project being assigned to us, and it accomplished the same thing, like, in the end, so.
So my biggest takeaway from this project was how important it was to work as a team, and not only to work as a team, but also to work together and to use leadership skills too. So I knew that right in the start of the project that having 5 days to complete an aqueduct seems easy at first, but then once the week progresses, it gets harder and harder, and then by Thursday, everyone was rushing to get their last pieces done. But I knew that if one person did it or 10 people did it, we wouldn't have gotten it done in time, so that was cool. And also, Rome wasn't built in a day, nor was it built in a week, nor was it built in a month, but we built an aqueduct in a week, which was pretty cool to do in 7th grade.
So what I really liked was how Mr. Chappella, he left us to our own resources to figure out what we could do on our own without much guidance or leadership. And I like this because it taught us independent thinking and how to get along without much notice, without much know-how. And it's better if we know how to problem solve, because if we can problem solve later on in life, we'll be so much better off. And as we were all saying, it was sort of a failure, but another thing to think of failure is a first attempt in learning. So
something I learned from this was that you might have this idea and you might think it's the best idea, but then you hear other people talk and you hear other people's opinions, and you realize if you incorporate that, it might turn out better. And sometimes if you fail at something, then you need to hear other people's opinions or other people's ideas, and then it could become way better than you ever thought it could be. So.
My big takeaway of the project was knowing that everyone could communicate together, and that sort of helped us like know that we could do it, and knowing that you sort of were a piece of like the puzzle to make it all work together was sort of like assuring, because like you just, I don't know, I thought it was cool. So
all right, my big takeaway is that like this is also partly based on like experience, because like I'm not always the most popular kid, but I'm still very vocal about my ideas, and sometimes they don't get listened to, and I kind of didn't like that, so that's part of why I kind of resisted the whole leader thing. But like I've also learned like this is like a real big thing that drove the point home, that having a leader can really take away some ideas, and that's not a good thing, honestly. But so.
All right. Thank you, 7th grade. we'll have an opportunity for some questions and answers after the 8th grade does their presentation. So at this point, I'd like to invite some of our 8th grade students up to talk a little bit about their experience on Team 8-4.
You gotta hit the button there.
All right, excellent. All right, so my name is Diana King, and I am the science teacher in 8-4. And this whole project started during August Academy, and it just happened like a month ago. So this has really been a long time coming for this project. What we did is we looked at the different units that we had. We called it the integration matrix. And we plotted all of our different units and tried to look where a common theme could occur. And we found that in westward expansion. So what we had the students do is use all 4 core content areas, things that they had been learning, plus further research, in order to create what was a historical nonfiction piece. So the students wrote letters and journal entries as if they were living during westward expansion. They also created scaled drawings using their math piece to kind of look at things they might have seen, like beavers or different rock formations, things like that. They also had to create maps that showed where they would have traveled in the territories around that time. And that social studies piece also played into making their letters and journal entries feel more authentic, so they were actually there. We also included, for authenticity, 19th century slang, which the kids kind of remember, which is always funny. And they also included weather or climate data for their setting. So they had to bring all these 4 core content areas together to create this final product. So we're going to have a few of the kids talk about their experiences as kind of a collective, and we also have some examples to hand out to you to look along as we're going along here.
Hi, my name is Coulter Langmaid, and I am a student on Team 8-4. Some things I gained from this project were the ability to believe in oneself. What I mean by that is, like, I have the ability to believe that I can do something like this again, so I have more self-confidence. I also gained time management and skills and balancing, like time management and balancing when the work is done, so like I can understand, like I have more skills now for time management, so I can use those more in high school, and it'll help me more. And this project included talking to peers, so it was fun because we could do the work while talking, and they could help us give information about what we needed to do.
Hi, I'm Clara Schaefer. Since this project was new, it also included some challenging aspects. So, for example, we had to research dimensions for scale drawings, and some of those were more obscure, so they were harder to find. It was required that we filled out graphic organizers, and that didn't work with everyone's research style. We had to work on the project in back-to-back classes on some days, so it was difficult to stay focused on one topic for that long. We didn't have any examples from previous years, and the guidelines were very flexible, so we didn't really have any specific options that were required, and it was all due on the same day, which added to the stress level.
Hi, my name is Florian Werner, and some stuff we would do differently next time if we were given the opportunity to do this project again. We would manage our time better and kind of spread out the project along the course of the 2 weeks that we had. We would ask more questions to get more of an idea of how to create the final product and get more interest in what the teachers were looking for. We would create more drafts and kind of plan out more what we were going to make the final product do, make the final product as perfect as possible, and create a schedule so you know what to do and when. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Tana Blake, and I'm here to talk about the resources we had or used during the project. We had the computers on wheels, which are also known as cows. Miss King and some of the other teachers stayed after school to help with extra, to help us type and stuff. We had designated work time in classes. We had teacher support to ask questions. We had graphic organizers. Some were mandatory and others were there if needed. We had the MMS website, which had copies of the templates and stuff for the project. We had textbooks, especially in science and social studies, and we also had peers to talk to if needed. We had the 19th century slang that Miss King created, which was used in the language arts portion of the project.
Hi, I'm Amber Lyons, and there was some valuable things that we could pull out of doing this project. One valuable thing was that we were able to get an experience of what real life work would be like, because we had to pull skills out of all 4 classes and pull them together within a time of 2 to 3 weeks and make sure our final product was as good as possible. And we also were able to work together, so we were able to get our peers' opinions. So if we wanted some help on maybe the vocabulary or what our people in the journal entries should do along the way, we were able to talk it out with other people. Also, it helped us get prepared for high school, because high schoolers or the teachers will throw projects at you, and they might not know that you have 2 projects in another class, and you will have to get them done in a timely manner as best as possible.
Hi, I'm Sean Trimper. So this project wasn't like most other projects because we had 2 weeks to do it, which is more than you usually have for any standard project that one teacher gives out for one certain class. And it's also like no other because all 4 classes were intertwined together, and it really gives a better understanding when you have all 4 skills developing into one, so that it gives you a better mindset in all 4 of the certain skills.
Thank you. So I point out the fact that this is truly 2 instances of an opportunity that kind of grew out of August Academy, and really kind of speaks to the whole idea that these students are taking lessons from what's going on academically and able to really kind of apply it to something that's further beyond life skills, that is whether it's team building and collaboration or time management. Valuable skills as these students are continuing to move forward. So at this time, I would just simply say it's an instance of, or 2 instances of, the kind of work that is happening all over over at Merrimack Middle School. So if you guys have any questions, I welcome your questions, and I'm sure the groups will be happy to do their best to answer.
Excellent. Cinda?
Just had 2 questions.
Yeah.
These are 2 examples in 7-1 and 8-4. Did all of the units do the same project throughout the middle school, or did every unit do a different, similar kind of interdisciplinary project?
Excellent question. Yeah, so these are 2 examples. Not every 8th grade team did the same experiment. Not all the 7th grade teams did the same experiment. But what you would find happening more often is these opportunities where the different disciplinary units or the different disciplines are getting together to create units that are collaborative in nature.
Okay. And then I had a question for the 7-1 team. 8-4 had talked about, I think it was Florian had talked about if he were to do it again, or if the team were to do it again, there were some lessons learned. And I just wanted, you're not obligated, but if you had any thoughts on if you had to do this again, because I think that's part of the problem solving is when you do something and maybe it doesn't go exactly how you wanted, then you have more information than you did when you first started. So I was just curious if you had any thoughts on how you might make that project better if you were to do it in the future.
Yeah, we definitely had a lot of different ideas for if we were to do it again and next year, since we have so many extra paper towel rolls. So one thing that came up was instead of using all the paper towel rolls, maybe using water bottles to maybe keep in the water. So, yeah. So since the paper towels like leak, and because they're paper and water. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that we would do, and then one other thing is in the very beginning it was very chaotic, and a lot of people did not get to say what they wanted to say. So I think people would try to. I think if we were going to do it again, we would try and separate it more and see if people could go into groups or something, and people could get some ideas and then come back together. So that's just like two things I would think. Okay.
Also, something to just add on to what Maddie said, kind of just because we already had the experience of doing the project, I think we would have gotten into the project and not really worried about like the aesthetics or like what support style we were going to do, because since we already did it and we already knew which one was the best, that then we can go into the project kind of having a better understanding of like going into the project and being really effective throughout the week. So that was just something that I would do.
I think Tim had something too.
Another thing we could do was some more time, because 1 week was definitely not enough for all of the ideas and everything we had to do. We had to create a really long aqueduct that went through 2 classrooms, and 1 week it just wasn't even half of the time we needed.
Okay, so if I had to do it again, I would probably not do a baking soda volcano. I don't know. But it made a mess. That's all I'm going to say. And like, what? So basically, so like apparently like 1 cup of vinegar was enough. They just pretty much dumped the whole box of baking soda and like kind of dumped vinegar into it. And like, there was just like giant area of like fizzing things, and just like, I mean, I don't think the janitor was very happy. Yeah, another thing I would probably have like everyone have their ideas, go up there, and maybe put some rags under the leaky points, because there were a lot. Don't think the janitor was very happy about that either.
One thing I would change was, I thought it was cool how like we had to do aesthetics, but I think we should like have a theme for the aesthetics. Like if it was like I don't know, like a Hawaiian theme, like you have to like palm trees and stuff, which like we did, but like a lot of classes did like a bunch of different things, and I think it would be cool if like we had like just one theme. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Cinda?
And then if I could follow back up with the 8-4 team, because I know one person spoke, were there any other things that Florian didn't mention that any of you might want to consider if you were to do it again?
Personally, I would probably make up more of a story beforehand. So my story kind of developed as I worked on writing my letters, so I would work on making that more beforehand so it really fit together.
Is there anybody else? Okay, great, thanks.
Michael?
I just want to thank all the young adults for coming tonight and sharing the stories and the information that you've learned. Also, I just want to say that I love the concept of actually bringing all the subjects together. I definitely think that's more real world, where you're actually using multiple things when you actually get out of school versus just learning math, just learning English and stuff like that. So definitely appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Any other questions from the board? I would have to say I thought you guys did a wonderful job presenting as well. I think that, you know, you come before us, and I think I know a couple of you from having an 8th grader, but I know you did a very good job presenting, gave your ideas very clearly and thoroughly, and that is something that will take you well into the high school. I know you 8th graders are chomping at the bit to be at the high school in the fall, and know that interdisciplinary classes are something you're going to run into all the time at the high school. So it's something that's coming up more and more in the way they're building classes that you can take, so you can get some credit in, say, English and social studies. And Mr. Johnson will be telling you all about that on your orientation night for the 7th graders next year. And he told us about it for our 8th grade kids this year. So I think that there's a lot of this practice that you're getting is going to prepare you very well for the years to come, and help you formulate how you can see how the real world works. With you're definitely working with different departments when you do a job in the real world, and making sure that you know how each part's role fits into getting the job done. So it's great that you're learning this at 7th grade already. So it's great. It's great news. So thank you so much for your presentation and your time. And I know it's still before your bedtime, so that's good to go. I don't know if you have any last end of the year homework to do, so you still have time to study. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, per tradition, as you're breaking down, and we'll let the high school come in, I will tell you what I should have told you before the middle school came up. Vice Chair Andy Schneider is excused for business travel. Hopefully he's having a very successful trip. Our student representative, Zev Cernak, is excused for the rest of the year. And Mike Thompson's running late, but he's here now, so we'll skip that one. Thank you.
So we could just like shift down.
Okay.
Just them first?
Yeah, just them first? Sure. Okay. Okay, teachers, get it. Oh, look at, oh, parents, photo op. Where do we look? I'm gonna get one.
You're going to speak, make sure you're on there. You get it from out up here together.
Nope, sorry. I gotta get my stuff.
Right when we started.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Please be back to when I was that age. Like the big 8th grade dance, you know. Going out to Costas, you have the Costas pizza, right? I think we paid a quarter for a slice of pizza, each one of us, right, over the 8th grade dance. But we put down a 7-Up and a Coke. 7-Up if I was cool.
And now we're going to move on to our next item, which is item number 5, the focus on the importance of cameras at, my number 4. I'm killing it tonight, like really killing it. So we're number 4, focus on student voice at Merrimack High School. So sorry, guys. So I invite to the table Ken Johnson and
Thank you very
his
much.
assistant principals. Thank you.
Well, that was a tough act to follow. I have to tell you that. What a great presentation, and I really look forward to them all coming up to the high school, and thanks for the plug about interdisciplinary. But again, that's all about listening to students' voices. So from its inception, this administration moved to change MHS from a teacher-centered high school to a student-centered learning facility. And this required, and it continues to require, that we listen to our students' voices. At MHS, students' voices can be found in everything we do, from academic scheduling, to governing, to co-curricular activities, to the beach balls that are tossed into the air on graduation day. And so tonight, thanks to our students, we offer you and the viewing audience a sampling of the various means by which we solicit students' voices. So I'm going to step aside, and we will begin with Senior Tiffany Knowles.
Good evening. My name is Tiffany Knowles, and I express my voice through academic rigor and business at Merrimack High School. As the valedictorian of the class of 2017, I have taken 5 AP classes in my high school career, one being the first AP English Language and Culture class that was introduced at the high school last year. These classes, in addition to others, have challenged me and consequently brought out the best in me. I feel that I am at my best when I am trying my hardest, participating in class and helping others. While here, I found a home in the business department. I took 5 of the classes offered in this area, one being online, and was also part of the Academy of Finance, DECA, and the FinLit 300 team. Through these, I have found internships, finished first in the state in the Principles of Finance category for DECA, and been captain of the FinLit 300 team that won the state championship this year. Through academic rigor and business, I think I have made my voice heard at the high school and in the state of New Hampshire. I cannot wait to see the success of the future scholars and business professionals that continue to come out of these incredible programs at MHS. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan Livy. I express my voice through portrait photography, and I've been a professional photographer for about 3 years now. I started my own business when I was 14 years old, and I started this actually because of Mr. Johnson's wife. I had her as an English teacher, and she basically pointed out my talents as a photographer and told me I should take it somewhere in my life. So Merrimack High School has really helped me in that aspect, especially. I do everything from senior pictures to weddings to prom pictures to just fine art pictures for fun. And photography has really taught me how to be an entrepreneur, and it's really helped my people skills as well. And I think that'll take me really far in life because those are both very important to have. I view the world in a very positive and joyful light, and I think that shows through my pictures and the way I capture people's emotions. I love capturing people's genuine, raw emotions, unposed, and that's why I love portraits. I feel heard by others when I take pictures because just for a few minutes they see a part of the world that I view that's different from the way they view the world, which is really cool. And over the years, I've just really found my voice through photography, and I think that's made me the person who I am today.
Hi, my name is Brittany Herman, and I express my voice through the written word. I've had a long history with writing and literature. I've always been interested in it through like my whole school career. And when I was in the 4th grade, we first learned how to write like an elementary level persuasive essay. And by learning how to write that, I learned how to be heard by others because I used that essay to write a persuasive essay to my parents on getting me my first cell phone. So it really gave me a lot of confidence by learning to write, and particularly when I got into high school, I feel like that was increased a lot. All of my proudest moments really center around writing, and in high school I won a lot of awards around writing. My teachers used my examples for classes. They really helped me gain confidence in everything I did in my writing. And I knew that anytime that I was afraid to say something aloud, I could say it in writing. I have a little tiny poem to read for you, just as an example. I wrote it over a writing conference over the summer, and the prompt was last night, this morning, and somewhere in between. So you fill in the blanks there. So I wrote, last night, my heart stopped like a broken dashboard clock, all mixed up gears and shattered glass. This morning, my eyes brightened like a check engine light, flashing with urgency yet ignored. Somewhere in between, I realized that love won't always abandon you, but it sure can drive away fast, leaving only the passing scent of gasoline in the wind and tire streaks on the pavement. I know it's kind of short and juvenile, but I got a lot of enthusiastic reactions to writing it when I first did, and it really made it one of my favorite poems to date because of how much the encouragement meant to me as a person. And my teachers also influenced me with their encouragements as well. And they've helped me grow with my writing through their courses and also just through them taking me aside and telling me, hey, you can do more with this. So I really believe that with every essay I wrote and every new technique that I learned, I also learned more about myself. And I learned that my voice can be just as powerful as anyone else's. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan King, and I express my student voice through speech. When I was younger, I was always the kind of person to say what I wanted to say, when I wanted to say it, and then maybe feel a little bit awkward after. Once I got to middle school, freshman year, I stopped. I was too embarrassed to be myself. I tried too hard to be someone I wasn't. Until last year, I realized, wow, this is so pointless. Why am I doing this to myself? And I decided that I'm just going to be me again, and that was the best decision I have ever made. I went back to my old ways, and my favorite audience was my field hockey team. Pre-game, post-game, on a timeout, whenever I felt as if someone needed to light a fire, get everyone riled up, I took it upon myself. And that was just the beginning of a year of development for me. I have 2 classes this year that have contributed so much to who I am today. And one of those is AP Literature and Composition. And my teacher, Mr. Mann, and I have decided that I am one of the more aggressive voices in our class, meaning that I am not afraid to speak my mind to anybody. He loves to push my buttons and get me to the bottom of my argument, and that has really turned me into a much better thinker than I was in this fall. The biggest influence on my voice, however, has been public speaking. It was a class I took first semester with one of the best teachers I've ever had. Miss Monty pushed me to the edge of my comfort zone again and again, putting me in front of my classmates and putting us all up on a stage, purposely trying to make fools of ourselves and each other. And when the time came for our biggest speech of the year, Miss Monty helped me more than I could ever explain. I've never minded crowds, but I've also never loved the spotlight until now. I am so much more comfortable with myself than I ever have been, and probably more than I should be considering I'm only 18. But I'm so thankful for all of Miss Monty's help, because now I know that this is something I love to do, and while I was hoping for a chance to spread my voice more than I was able to, I am so grateful to have had the experience. I'm so developed into who I am now, and it has been amazing. I'm so thankful to have the chance to speak to all of you today, because all I've really wanted was for people to hear my voice and my message. So thank you for letting me share my student voice with you guys today.
So hello, my name is Justin Kaludi. I am a member of the Merrimack High School Marching and Concert Band. So just like there's a difference between the written and the spoken word, there is a profound difference between the instrumental and lyrical sides of music. So I've been a member of the Merrimack music program since 5th grade, so I definitely have more experience with the instrumental side. And so that is the way that I express my voice, and it's probably one of the greatest ways to express your voice without having to actually use it. Because throughout high school we have played a huge variety of different pieces. Just this last concert alone, we played a piece called The National Game, which is a nice lighthearted little musical piece, you know, and it's nice, fun, and upbeat. And then that was countered directly with a piece called Incheon, which is a musical memorial to the Korean War. And then for graduation, we were playing a piece called Shenandoah, which is a very beautiful and flowy piece. And all of these sort of express the different ranges that you can experience as a musician. I've also been a member of the jazz band. So, of course, whenever you want to play something that's more fun or improvisational, that's always where I find a good time doing that as well. So just essentially, music has enabled me to express myself without using words.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Cree, and I also express my voice through music. I was lucky enough to grow up in a household that was filled with musics of all types, piano, guitar, singing, and even accordion. For as long as I can remember, I have always sung my heart out and danced like nobody's watching. My mom even swears that I learned how to dance before I learned how to walk. This hobby soon grew into a passion, and as I grew older, I was lucky enough to have amazing opportunities at Merrimack High School. One of the most memorable experiences of my 4 years here has been accompanying the high school chorus. I was able to take my love of piano and volunteer my time to help fellow musicians create beautiful pieces of art. In doing so, I became more involved in singing in the choir as well, and had the honor of being accepted into many state music conferences and even an East Coast conference. I could sit here and tell you about my accomplishments over the past 4 years, but music is so much more to me than the plaques and certificates I have received. Music is pouring my heart out into every piece of music I play. Music is my saving grace for channeling my stress and emotions. Music is a universal language that touches souls instead of just ears. With the help of my peers and amazing teachers such as Mr. Dougal, I have found myself through music here at Merrimack High School. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Aiden Gret, and I've chosen the arts as a means of expressing my voice. So, yeah, I draw. I also have, across the past 4 years, delved into pottery, 3D animation, 2D animation, painting, sewing, glass art, both molten and cold, paper craft, digital work, wood, calligraphy, linoleum prints, and enough other things to run my 2 minutes dry. Each of these things has taught me something new, however. Art is many things, a lens from which to view reality, a door to escape it, a tool we can use to shape it. When I was in elementary school, doodling on my homework assignments, I wouldn't have been able to articulate this. I probably wouldn't have cared anyway. I was young and just wanted to entertain myself until we had moved on to something new I could learn. But as you grow up with art, you start to find its other facets. It supplements your academics by fueling curiosity and attention to minute detail. It brings new perspectives and approaches to the world. Art allows me to be more acute in the ways I share ideas and emotions, from smaller problems of better defining an object to finding a method of expressing deeper issues that lay beyond my words. It has taught me not only to have a better appreciation of and perception of beauty, but of the time and effort that goes into any process, artistic or otherwise, including scientific processes and all the other work that people put into this world. It is impossible to say whether I've been able to get this far without art. However, I know that it has, for me and countless others in our school, helped to adapt to the academic mindset while still appealing to our creativity and passion. And a lot of that's through the help of the wonderful teachers in our school who push us to be the best, not only with our art, but like the work we put into it and the emotion behind it. And I have one thing I did with me today. It's not my best one, but those are all in a box going to the AP so that they can check my stuff for college. But this is something I made in AP Studio for this year. And it is, okay, there's people back here, I'm sorry. And my focus for my AP project was on animals in nature that are underappreciated but still have a strange or interesting beauty to them. And so this is a bird of paradise, and it's all cut paper with X-Acto. And that's all I have. So thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Loico, and I express through I express my voice through woodshop. I've been part of the Merrimack Woodshop program for the past 4 years. I started in Woodshop 1, and I recently finished Woods 3, but that was junior year, so there's no more classes after that. So I requested to Mr. Carl if I could continue working in the shop in an independent study for another art credit. And I've never really been good at music or art, so I really had no creative outlet. So when Mr. Carl finally showed me lathe turning, it really was something that I just really enjoyed. The fact that I could just make a log into something like that and win a prize for it was just, it baffled me. And this year, Mr. Carl asked me to join the New England Student Wood Turning and Design Competition, and I won. I came in first place, and I was completely shocked. I entered with 2 colleagues, Jesse Knust and Tyler Rohr, and they came in second and third, and we completely took the competition. And it... Thank you. And it really was just a great experience that Mr. Carl let us join him with after school. And for first place, the prize was a lathe, which is what we use to turn the bowls with. So the fact that I can continue doing this after school, really, I'm just so grateful for, because it gives me something to do, and it's a really fun, creative outlet. So, and the woodshop program also has a lot of job opportunities after the fact. We took a field trip to the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, and a lot of people were offered apprenticeships there through the woodshop and the auto shop courses here, and it really has been a great 4 years in the program. Thank you.
Explain something about that bowl, the type of wood it is.
That bowl is made from a cherry log. The more yellow part is considered sapwood, and the more red part is the heartwood. And that type of bowl is considered a natural edge because the bark is still along the edge. And originally, that bowl was a circle. It was turned green, which means the tree's kind of still alive, still wet. So when you're turning it, you're getting sprayed with water the whole time. Kind of really annoying. And the whole thing was made in 1 day, but it took over a month to finish the process because it has to sit and dry. Because if you just do everything too quickly, eventually the wood will get really soft and it'll just be destroyed. So after about 2 weeks of letting it sit in a paper bag, I could finally finish it, and it took about 4 days to do the finishing. 3 coats of oil and 1 coat of wax. Thank you.
Yeah. So my name is John Sylvester. So I'm a senior at Merrimack High School, and this fall I'm going to be attending Wentworth Institute of Technology for manufacturing engineering. So my entire life I've been a tinkerer. I've always felt really comfortable with my grandfather just slaving away at some weird project for no real purpose other than just to say you can build it. And that's always what's really been driving me in life, is just to say that I can build this. And for me, the shop program has been an amazing outlet to really channel my engineering interest. I've taken all Ms. DiLorenzo's excellent engineering classes, and I learned the skills to make these drafts, but I never actually learned how to bring it to real life. And an idea is very good on paper, but it's not as good as something that's actually real and tangible. And the shop program, Mr. Vandergaard especially, showed me how I can take those ideas on paper and turn it into something that's actually a real product, something that can be held, something that can be touched, and that will work. He taught me the ins and outs and really how to design and fabricate something. So much so that one day I was driving past Hall's Line Machine Company, and I saw a sign that said "Machinist Wanted." I walked in, asked for the owner to meet with me. He met with me 5 minutes later. I gave him this project right for me, which is my Science Olympiad project. Said I made this myself. That I machined this. I tell you every facet of it. Look through my drawings. There's nothing wrong there. I can guarantee it. And then after looking through it for about maybe 45 seconds, he said, "When do I want to start?" So so I was offered a job as a machinist purely because of the work that Mr. John Vandergaard did with me, and I mean, going into manufacturing engineering, the work I did with him was enough to let me skip through my first semester of intro engineering. But now, talking with the academic advisor about skipping my second semester of intro to engineering as well. I just never would have happened without the shop program there to really help me channel my engineering interest and make it something practical, and it's saving me so much money in my life, and I really don't know where I'd be without a program like this to give me the resources that I need to succeed in life.
Hi, my name is Jason. I'm a junior at Merrimack High School. So I'll give you a little bit of a background. When I was 4, I started to be a motorhead, so I was always involved in snowmobiles, dirt bikes, everything under the sun. And then when I was 14, I just got out of 8th grade, I met this guy, Dave. He owns a shop, and I started to mentor over there. And then during my freshman year, I took a class with Mr. Vandekar. It was a small engines class. So that summer, like after my freshman year, I started to be part of a pit crew on that paper right there of that Supermod. So they're the fastest short track race cars in the world. Like we put F1 and NASCAR to shame. They do like 180, we do 245 at Loudon. And then, so that has given me like the opportunity about like physics and fabrication for cars. So after I started like getting an interest in fabrication, I went back to Mr. Vandekar. I was like, hey Vandy, I want to learn how to weld. So and then he showed me how to weld, and so after a year of practicing, I got pretty good at welding. And I'm going to be taking this class at Manchester Community College next year for welding so I can get certified. And that weld there, I mentor at my parents' shop, Abel Crane, and we were building a tub to put cables in, so we needed lift hoist. So that's what that's for. And pretty much the shop program has like introduced me into like the real world. I mentor at the shop with Dave. I can go right into that when I get out of high school. And I'm probably going to go right into work with my parents right after school.
Jason, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You said you're going to go to MCC next year and you're a junior, right?
Yes.
So are you going to MCC as a senior as well?
Yes, for night courses.
Excellent.
Yes, and then one final thing one quote that's really resonated really well with me that was teacher Mr. Carl wanted me to share tonight was from one of his good friends, Professor Daniel J. Gauthier of Duke University. A few years back, he went to go visit him down at his optics lab, and he's told me the story freshman year, and he always tells it to me to really keep me on track and show me what's important in life. And he said, he asked Professor Gauthier, what's one of the things that's missing that you'd like to see them have as skills? And he looked at me and said, machine tooling. Machine tooling, because the things we have to construct here, we can't buy on Amazon, we can't buy on Google, we can't buy them on the internet, we have to make them. And Mr. Carl's always told me that this shows the importance of things like shop programs to get kids out there who can make these parts, because they're not going to pop out of nowhere. Somebody has to be there to make them, and we need to start them at a younger age. So at a time where shop programs are in danger of losing funding, it's really important to get these kids out there and really doing something that's going to be worthwhile to society.
Okay, so my name is Amy Ham.
I'm Justine Bowling.
And we express our voice through theater. So, theater was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in high school. I walked in freshman year, probably not able to say hi to my own teacher, and now I'm performing in front of tens of people. So, it's really, aside from that, it's given me the chance to really like find myself, because when you become another character, you're becoming another person, and you find another part of yourself in that character, and you are able to see people from different perspectives, which gives you a better understanding of them and definitely more patience with them as well.
One of my favorite things about theater is that you can like take your stress throughout the day and like channel it into something like creative and productive, and like you work towards putting on this show, so it feels really good to like be able to create something.
I've definitely learned communication skills again. I learned how to speak louder and dictate better, and I learned how to make eye contact, which is a thing that you need to do in life. And I learned how to like talk in front of people, how to make friends, because that was also a thing you need to do in life.
There's also an important leadership aspect of theater because there's a student leadership board, which is like there's a bunch of students on it that like make the decisions in the department, like what shows we're going to do and fundraising ideas. And currently we serve as like the co-vice presidents of theater. So like the leadership skills that we gain from that help us a lot too.
I've learned my limits, and I've learned how to push them in theater, because things I've learned, yes, I can talk louder than I think I can. I've learned that I can actually do somersaults. I've learned that I can fit in a toy cabinet. I learned that I'm able to sing, sort of. I've learned that I'm able to dance again, sort of. And I've learned definitely how to lead people, which is new.
Another thing we do is we go to a festival every year, which is a competition. They say it's not a competition, but it's a competition, where we go and we gather with other schools and their theater departments, and we just perform with them, and then we have like meetings with them about like the different shows and stuff, and it helps us a lot to like branch out of just our theater group and into like the theater community around us, which also helps a lot with like making friends and putting ourselves out there.
So, yeah.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Ortega, and I'm here to talk about how I express my voice through leading the student council at the high school. So going into my senior year, I expected my role as student leader to be extremely limited. I mean, who's going to trust an 18-year-old to make real decisions? I certainly wouldn't. I expected my job to be running through agendas and emceeing pep rallies, and that was pretty much it. Fortunately, my prejudices about my job as a president were completely wrong. My advisors, Mr. Woods and Mr. Phelps, trusted me to work with them as an equal, giving me a newfound responsibility to actually learn how to run this big production that is Student Council. The support and respect that I received from them allowed me the confidence to grow as a leader. I was treated like an adult and thus tried my best to lead like one. I don't know how successful I actually was, but over the year, the Student Council did accomplish incredible things. We prioritized charity over fundraising this year and set school records for donations to local food banks. In addition, we implemented a more involved version of Spirit Week that allowed each of the classes to join as a team and create banners, skits, and dances to entertain everyone at the pep rally. As I look back on this year, I'm extremely proud of these accomplishments, knowing that we have started traditions that will stay with the high school for years to come. Through my involvement with Student Council, I've learned about the responsibility of public service and the impact it can have on the community. I'd like to thank Mr. Johnson, Mr. Woods, and Mr. Phelps for this incredible experience that will define my high school years for the rest of my life.
Hello, my name is David Vaccaro, and I express my voice through leadership and service.
Throughout my time at Merrimack High School, I have had the pleasure of being class president, president of Merrimack Cares, student council secretary, and the captain for the cross-country, indoor, and outdoor track teams. These opportunities have taught me to not lead through demands, but to lead through the service of others. I have been taught that being a successful leader is not about having a dictatorship and being the sole voice in every decision. Rather, successful leaders are those that cultivate discussion and the collaboration of others, bringing people together to create positive change. I have been given an incredible platform to lead others toward common visions and bringing about school change and world change as a result. Hosting the Division I state track meet and the Meet of Champions at Merrimack these past 2 weekends has been a great honor. Seeing my peers represent our town and school, whether in competition or as volunteers, increased the pride I have to be from Merrimack. While some may have seen a sophomore taking hurdles off the track or a freshman measuring javelin distances, I saw future leaders learning how to lead through service. As I leave Merrimack, I am thankful for the opportunities I have had to grow in my leadership abilities and learn what it means to express my voice through leadership and service to others. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I am Madison Dyer. I am a junior.
Hi, my name is Brittany Fisher, and I am a freshman.
So I'm not all that creative. I don't do artwork. I do sing on occasion. I'm part of the chorus. But really, Brittany and I here like to talk to people. And when you talk to people, as often as the two of us do, you start to learn that everyone and everything in the world needs a little bit of help. And so the two of us express our voice through helping others. We do this in a variety of ways. We're going to talk to you tonight about one specific way, but just to rattle a couple of things off, we're both part of student council. We are both in the theater program, and I'm not going to bore you with our various activities, but just overall, we can spread our love to help others throughout the many different things we do at the school. But the one specific thing that Mr. Johnson has asked us to talk about tonight, and something that's really, really important to the both of us, is Merrimack Cares. Merrimack Cares is a service learning organization that was started at the high school my sophomore year, so that was last year. This is its second year running. And essentially, the entire goal of this program is to help people. And so, obviously, two girls in high school who like to help people jump right on that opportunity. And basically, the program has grown so much since its starting. It's actually quite miraculous how far we've come in the short span of time that we've been running. But I'm going to talk just a little bit about our last year, which was our first year in the program, and then Brittany's going to talk about this year because Brittany's a freshman, and so Brittany has only been here for 1 year. But last year, and it's starting, Mr. Snell, our advisor, he's a retired teacher from the high school, he really got us thinking about how we, within the program, could run. So the difference between a service learning organization and just a service organization is that a service learning organization tries to promote the actual planning and carrying out of the ideas itself within the students that run the organization. So Merrimack Cares meets once a week during school because we're all very busy. We have a couple members sitting over there now too, but and Mr. Snell was encouraging us to think about how we as students could directly impact our school, our community, and eventually the world. And so within our 2 years that the program has been running, we have already accomplished all three of those. And we hope to continue to do so. I'm going to let Brittany talk more about the specifics of how we've done those three this year. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So outside of Merrimack Cares, I also volunteer my 8th period in a community service learning group focused in on conversational skills, but Merrimack Cares is more important, so we're going to talk about that. This year, we have done a food drive for Mr. MHS, and we raised money for clean water in Haiti through fundraisers ranging from the Jingle Bell fundraiser during the Christmas times and selling water bottles outside of classes the week before finals. People are nervous, they're thirsty.
It's true.
Currently, right now, Merrimack Cares is working on a project we all call Care Gardens, in which we have evenly divided our representatives among all the schools in the district and either plant gardens from scratch or help the school in bringing back past gardens to life. Our goal for this project is to get the kids involved in volunteer work at an early age so we can show them how easily it is to help their community and get involved in community service. And that's what Merrimack Cares is really all about.
So thank you very much. I think are we the last one?
You are, but I'd like to add something to what they said there, because the whole notion of community service, we debate this often as principals in southern New Hampshire, and I always felt it kind of strange to compel volunteerism. So the object behind Merrimack Cares was to spread the spirit of volunteerism as opposed to compelling it. So not only have they done this on their own volition, if I listed for you all of the literally hundreds of hours this year alone that the athletic teams have done to community service, I think you'd be blown away. So the objective has already been met and is going to continue to grow. I can recall, I think one of you suggested that one day we could see kids in Thornton's Ferry or Reed's Ferry or Muse at the middle school walking around in little Merrimack Cares shirts of their own. And the moment they said that, I think my heart just raced, because that was really the goal. But to have it in the hands of these great young people, just you can't measure the level of success they've already achieved. So I thank you very, very much. So yeah. I'd just like to say, I know that they'll be willing to take questions if you have any, but these kids just remind me, as so many of the kids in the high school do, of the power of listening. And the one thing I will always take with me long beyond my years of Merrimack is that over the years as an educator, kids have taught me to become a better listener, because they have a lot to say, and each and every one of them has a powerful story to tell. So with that, I'm sure they could answer any questions or entertain any you may have.
Are there any questions from the board? Michael?
Hello. Thanks. Thank you, everyone, for coming in. Actually, I don't have any questions, but what I thought was very compelling with all the statements and everybody's speeches or statements that they made was a lot of what you're doing is actually trying to get ready for that next step in life. And what I found is a lot of you have actually already taken that next step. And I want to just commend all of you for that. I think that you're doing a great job. So thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? Naomi?
It's hard to find a theme across this many different subjects, but there absolutely was one for me listening and watching tonight. I heard words like assertiveness, but also aggression, going that far. I loved hearing that word put out there. Each of you was really willing to share, whether it was what you wrote, which I don't know if I could ever share a poem publicly like that. Well done, along with other things that you've done. I think that the ability to step out into one's comfort zone is a shared thread that I'm very impressed to see across the group, and I'm very happy to see as well. Thank you very much.
Any questions? So I'm also a parent of a freshman, so I definitely saw tonight as, and I'm going to have an incoming freshman in the fall. So, tonight is the possibilities. I think you have such a broad brush stroke of, if you have a passion, there's not a place where you can't fulfill it at Merrimack High School. And with the core curriculum, with the additional programs, and then, of course, the clubs and activities, sports, the sky's the limit. So, and when it's not there, it can become there. I think that's also, what we learned with Merrimack Cares. It's a 3-year-old organization, but it's doing such profound things already. So we have a lot to be proud of in this district, and you are a great example of why we do what we do up here, because we know that we're producing the future of our community, of our state, of America. I know you guys are going to go far and do great things. For those seniors, I will see you next Saturday. We'll be up on the dais watching you get your diploma kind of up close and personal. So it's our privilege to do so. So we thank you so much for all your hard work. For those of you coming back in the fall, I know, Brittany, I've seen you since you were little because you're my son's grade. You're just, the sky's the limit. So I look forward to future seeing what you come back with after you leave for college, come back and visit, and it's just, it's humbling. So thank you so much. And I guess in the spirit of, but wait, there's more, we're doing more Merrimack Middle School and High School business. So with no other questions, we're on to item number 5, which finally we're there. Didn't mean to skip it to it earlier. It's to focus on the importance of cameras at Merrimack Middle School and Merrimack High School. And I'll invite the administrators up, and I will invite the students to go study for finals. So the principal's going to call to my office. So welcome all.
So we go from all of the middle school and high school students talking about what they do each and every day, all the good things, and there's a lot of talent there, certainly. So that was it's always a good evening. So tonight I'd like to thank all of you for letting us give you an overview of our security cameras and the importance of them, having them both at the middle school, high school, and I know they're at other buildings as well, because I have viewed footage of certain events that take place at some of the elementary schools as well, and upper elementary. So for 6 years we have been utilizing security cameras at the high school. They have helped us in the investigations of numerous issues such as vandalism, theft, students becoming aggressive towards one another, and recovering items. Having the cameras have helped in deterring students from making poor decisions. We use the cameras on a daily basis. We truly do. Sometimes during an investigation, we will just use one camera, while other times we may use multiple cameras with each administrator looking at a camera location and then moving on to another one. We primarily use the cameras that are inside the building, but we also have used the exterior cameras. The outside cameras afford us the opportunity to view every side of the building and also part of the parking lot. During drills, we utilize the cameras to see how our student body and staff are exiting the building. Is it in a timely manner, or do we need to reroute the students to a different part of the building? Having the cameras have helped us. We're grateful to have them. Whenever we use the cameras, I just want to let all of you know that we call upon our administrative assistants, paraeducators, teachers, athletic director, custodian, certainly our student resource officer, Detective Mike Murray. So it's truly a team effort, but we do really use the cameras. They're invaluable, and we have 10 exterior cameras at the high school. We have 13 cameras on the second and third floor, and 24 cameras on the first floor. So I'm not sure if Mr. Zampieri or Mr. Johnson or Mr. Carragher want to speak to our security cameras. Yeah.
I would just quickly echo a lot of what Mr. Bergeron said related to being able to use the cameras regularly. Perhaps I wouldn't quite go as far to say that we use them daily at the middle school, but it's something that we look to and a tool we use when we're investigating situations or issues. And it is one of those things that can really be a time saver in our process, and being able to get a firsthand understanding of what was occurring or what may have occurred related to a situation. So we have not quite as many cameras as the high school. We're also not as large of a building. We have 7 on the exterior of the building, 1 that is up looking over the field, and then a total of 9 within the building on the first and second floors. So they are a very valuable tool, and they do help us out a lot. And one of the things I would say, they do act as a deterrent for our students, I think, a lot of the times, which is very difficult to measure overall. So thank you.
I would echo what has been said previously. Mr. Bergeron captured our conversation that we've had daily, and especially this morning. I think the words that came out this morning were first and foremost student safety. That's our main goal, and it accomplishes, the cameras help us accomplish that in a variety of ways. One, that we're able to see what has happened, and we are able to save students from being pulled out of a class to be interviewed about what they may have seen or not seen or heard. That happens occasionally, but a lot less now that we have the cameras, because we don't need to interview as many people, so less students are staying in class for longer periods of time. And the decisions that we reach about incidents that occur are arrived at justly and fairly. It's not the result of someone's opinion. It's on camera, and that really helps us feel like we're doing the best job we can with those sort of decisions. It's hard to put an accounting on a deterrent, but in conversations, anecdotally, many students mentioned that they've thought twice about different things, which is hard to put in a data field, but it does occur.
I'll just say one thing. We talk a lot about students. I just remind the staff that we're all on camera. So that is an expectation in the day-to-day life today in America, that wherever you go, the cameras are rolling. So as much as we talk about students, sometimes we have to say, well, where's this staff member, where's that staff member? So we're all on camera. And I think that is something that the kids need to become comfortable of, need to become aware of as they go through life. As you know, if you travel in any city, they're on every street corner, they're around people's homes, and so on. I think the biggest issue for us is, and is to echo it, is not just the fact gathering, but deterrent. And that's why I think they need to be reminded that this is a part and is going to be a part of your life, whether you go directly to work, whether you go to college or university, or even, quite frankly, walk around your neighborhood. So,
Marge?
So one of the other things that I would be interested in you doing before the board queries you is the fact that this topic came up during the budget process. And so tonight, given the fact that you are all here, it's to not only share about how important this tool is in your work, but also as you project to the future, to talk in terms of ideally what additional cameras would you need, whether it's in the 17-18 budget or the 17-18 and 18-19. It's so that the board can realize, if you were to vision forward, what would you hope for additional cameras?
I'll jump in, I guess, at this point. Obviously, more cameras would help us in a variety of ways. Internally, they would extend coverage in areas that are in a long hallway, extend that current coverage. They would also, if placed correctly, catch the other direction. Some cameras only catch someone leaving, and we see the back of their heads, per se, as opposed to coming forward, what else they might be carrying or who are they with. With us, why some students don't understand no hats, it's so we can identify someone going down a hall in many ways. And thirdly, they would be able to be placed in areas that we currently don't have coverage. We are doing very well, and it's amazingly a wonderful assistance but there are always room for improvement and greater coverage.
So again, I'll jump in myself. I know that Rich is talking about some additional interior cameras because again, we have very long hallways in the high school. And I will say that some people are conscious of where the cameras are and may conduct an activity where they know the cameras are not. So I would like to see some additional cameras put in each of the wings of the high school, but also some consideration given to some exterior cameras, for example, down in the lower field, maybe some additional cameras in the parking lot, so that we can observe the comings and goings. Because we have a great system that we are currently utilizing to the max, but in terms of its broad perspective and utilization, I think with additional cameras we can increase that capacity.
I would jump in and say that from middle school perspective, you know, I guess if I were to have to assign a number to how many we would hope to have, it would be 10. We do have some on the docket for next year, but one of the things that I've been in conversation with Tom Tussaud is the replacement of some of the cameras that don't provide the like a wide enough lens or a wide enough angle, the amount of clarity you might potentially want for a larger space such as our cafeteria. As well as some upgrades to the systems that potentially, so for example, we have a camera that is up at our field, which is a ways from the building, as all the parents of soccer and everyone else has walked that distance. It's a ways. There are systems now that can make it so that is able to be remotely accessed, as opposed to having to go up to that actual facility and then access it at that place in that point in time. So some upgrades, not only to the technology that we have, but also the cameras that are there, as well as the addition of other cameras.
Just a reminder too that they are infrared at night, and that's very, very helpful for capturing any activity that might occur around the building in the evening. Infrared on the inside as well. So.
I just want to mention, Mr. Carrigan mentioned Mr. Tussaud. He's very responsive. You know, Mr. Johnson pointed out that the students they're smart, and they'll go to certain areas where they know cameras are in a certain direction. So we've, on occasion, have, you know, called Mr. Tussaud, and he's been right there, and we have to change the direction and the angle of the camera. So he's helped us a lot.
Excellent. Any questions from the board? Cinda.
Maybe just more of a comment. Certainly, I think it makes sense. You know, I'm sure that you do go use them regularly. I would say, you know, with the budget season that's upcoming, put them in the budget. I mean, if you need them, ask for them, and they can go through the process that they would go through. I mean, the other thing that I would say as a board member, one of the things that I look for, are we making the best decisions? I mean, obviously there's technology available. You know, we want to take advantage of it. Are we using the right vendor? Are we getting the best price? Those are some of the questions that I have. But certainly, to know that we need them, you know, there's really no question in my mind that for the safety of students, staff, and our property, that they make sense. So I would say if you need them and there's a way to put them in the budget so that we can review it, you know, please do so.
Michael?
Thank you. Actually, this isn't more directed to you, but more to Marge. Are there cameras at all the schools for outside security currently?
Yeah, every school has probably around 5 to 7 cameras outside the building, and then one as you go into the main entrance.
Thank you.
That's the extent of it.
Yeah, I just noticed that obviously we discussed obviously property protection too and stuff like that, not just dealing with the children, so, or students, I should say.
And part of, if I could just elaborate just a hair.
Sure.
Okay. And I was talking with Peter and of course Adam earlier, and Adam mentioned, you know, the upgrade of the systems. When we first built this, we spent around $200,000 to get it up and running, and it was all an analog system because IP cameras back then 7 years ago would have cost us around $700,000 to $800,000, and we were given a $200,000 budget to blanket the high school. So we had to go with analog cameras with DVRs and everything like that. And now when we make changes, we put in IP cameras, so the quality is a lot better, and the pan-tilt zoom functionality is there. And we have one on the corner of the high school that has a zoom on it that if you wanted to target a particular area, we could read your license plate from 100 yards away easy. So there's certain things that, although we want to increase the number of cameras, we want to increase the functionality and the type of cameras we're putting in. Because when one goes down, we replace it with an IP camera, which makes a lot of sense. Much better thing. Visibility. Also, before we had installed these, we had a rash of vandalism, probably $6,000 to $8,000 a year. I'm sure Ken remembers the boulder that came through the main office who broke the administrative assistant's desk. We had the doors at Reed's Ferry were smashed in. We had the field house up at the middle school rammed into with an ATV 2 or 3 times. Since the cameras have been installed, we have had virtually nothing as far as outdoor vandalism goes and destruction to our property. So it's really been a good deterrent from the administration's point of view, and it's also has somewhat paid for itself as far as vandalism goes and what we could expect. And plus, vandalism is just not the physical damage of the property. It just shows a disrespect for the school property and the school on the whole, and that's something we really want to prevent. And these cameras have helped us do that immeasurably, I think.
Any other questions? I had a couple. I know we're going to go to the middle school first because you've become a polling place. So, and then the upper elementary would fall in the same vein. I know that we're using multiple doorways for polling days. So, in, out, I think when larger elections happen, we're using 2 different entrance points. So I know as you're expanding, they may not have them, but knowing that these look to be long-term solutions, I would keep those things in mind as we're strategizing access points. And the same being said, any access point to the outside of the building, just because it may have a locked door doesn't mean someone doesn't see someone and open it for them. So those are the things where it wouldn't be under our controlled environment that they come in, but just having the cameras there so we know who might be in, how they got in, and from there. Because long-term, just preventatives. But those are the things that I think of when I think of the new points. And again, places you can't see from your building. Lower Field was a perfect example, Ken, at the high school, because you can't be all places at all times, but it's an easy way for you to get insight to what's going on in those areas. And I guess the questions I have are, you're right, we did start with an old system and we're upgrading and replacing. But do we have a system that allows us to expand, or do we have to start with a new base system to be able to expand? Have we hit any limits on any of our systems?
Oh, the systems are all scalable right
Excellent.
now. Yep.
Excellent, because that was definitely a question I had. And all of the, you mentioned infrared, so all of our cameras have infrared capabilities? So,
Yep,
excellent.
they go black and white at night. Yep.
Excellent. So those were my questions. Excellent. Well, thank you for the update, and we look forward to seeing you again, budget time, on this very subject. Hopefully
Excellent.
not before then, because that means there might be some bad news.
Thank you much.
Excellent. Thanks so much, guys. And we are moving on to item number 6, which is a proposed new board policy and elimination of the current policy. I invite to the table Principal Bridie Bellemare from Thornton's Ferry, Kathy Sabati from Reed's Ferry, who I had to think about because she used to be Miss Hansberry when I knew her, Dave Zeke, our food service director, and physical education teacher at James Mastercola Upper Elementary School, Rick Grenier. Welcome all.
Thank you. Evening, everyone.
Thank you. Good evening. I clearly need to attend more board meetings because there's lots of fascinating things I've learned this evening. It was wonderful to hear the students and the passion, and man, when I think of what these kids, young men and women, are going to contribute to the world, it's pretty amazing. It's going to be a wonderful place to be.
So again, good evening. We're happy to be here. I'll do some brief introductions and then kind of frame our presentation for you this evening, if I may. To my right, Rick Grenier, PE teacher at JMU's, also the chairperson of the District Wellness Committee and representative on the Healthcare Cost Containment Committee as well. Continuing to my right, I think we have Kathy Sabati, first grade teacher at Reed's Ferry, and also member of the Wellness Committee, and Dave Zicki, Director of Food Services, also a member of our Wellness Committee. So a little bit about our process of why we're here. This past fall, the committee convened to continue our work on developing a more comprehensive integrated resource intended to better communicate our goals and initiatives across the district and within the community. Specifically, we were looking to come up with a way, such as through perhaps a newsletter, to really better articulate what our goals were to the community at large. We've also discussed formatting our minutes and being able to publish those on the district website. So that was our goal initially. However, during that first meeting, Dave had shared that he had recently completed an administrative review conducted by the Bureau of Nutrition Services through the Department of Education. Dave will speak more in detail to the outcomes of this review. However, pertinent to our purpose here this evening, one of the recommendations made was that we reassess the tenets of our wellness policy. So this prompted our committee to kind of pause and reassess our goals. In short, we did conduct a review of several policies from neighboring districts and discussed our core values that we felt were critical both in preserving and in fostering ways that we wanted to develop a policy that provided for the overall well-being of students, staff, and families in Merrimack. So first, Dave will briefly speak to the review, policy, and analysis process. Then Rick and Kathy will share some of the core values we identified that ultimately led us to include the recommended revisions to the policy that will be read into record this evening. Dave?
Thank you. First, I'd like to do a quick overview of how the wellness policy started. And the policy requirements were established by the Child Nutrition and Special Supplemental Nutrition Programs for women, infants, and children under the Reauthorization Act of 2004, so it goes back to 2004. It was further strengthened by the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010, and it requires schools participating in the National School Lunch Program and breakfast programs to develop a wellness policy. So on July 29th of 2016, the USDA Food and Nutrition Services finalized regulations to create a framework and guidelines for written wellness policies for school districts. The final rule requires districts to begin developing a revised local wellness policy during the school year of 2016-17. So that's kind of where we started with revamping this one. The final rule expands the requirements to strengthen policies and increase transparency. The final rule requires that school districts update or modify the wellness policy as appropriate, and it's all done under local control, how each district feels they should do their own. When we had the state administrative review, there's some certain documentation that they look for, and they asked for the current wellness policy that we have, how the policy and assessments are made available to the public, and documentation of efforts to review and update the policy, and who is involved. During the review, there was some technical assistance that was given to me. They said that our local wellness policy did not include any assessment or public notification, so that's one of the things that we were working on this year. We made efforts to review and update the policies, and steps regarding implementation, transparency, public input, and assessment available to the public, which we had discussed. Our committee used an assessment tool provided by to the schools in New Hampshire by the University of New Hampshire Cooperative Extension. It contained areas including nutrition, physical activity, collaboration with the home, the school environment, and policy. We also viewed our current policy as well as policy from neighboring school districts. The wellness policy has been developed to cover all students, staff, and community members as well. So it's collaborative of everything. And we did have the policy in place, and it was reviewed by the leadership team. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to the other members and discuss how we worked on this.
Thank you. I'll continue, guys. We took a look at our existing policy and tried to look at it with a broader view, not just encompassing what we were doing for students, which is a whole lot of great stuff going on in each and every building, but also looking at ways that we can try to get staff more involved and collaborations between the two, and collaborations between older high school students and elementary students as well. So try to broaden our view on the whole policy, and I think you'll see that when we read through it. We've also tried to focus on more than just nutrition, and also coming from me as a phys ed teacher, we often look at it through the eyes of exercise, but as you're well aware of, with the development of our mental health committee, we're looking at it with a bigger picture, and I think a very important one too. It's all of these components are necessary to have true wellness, and obviously the better we do with that with our students, the better prepared they are for learning. Also, we're trying to involve the community more in everything that we do. Kathy's going to provide some basic examples of how we've gotten local businesses involved. We're very fortunate to have their support. And again, keeping in mind the inclusion of social, emotional, and mental health as part of one's well-being, not just focusing on nutrition or physical activity, which may have been one of the weaknesses of our existing policy. Kathy, can you continue, please?
I'm going to just talk about some of the ways we promote wellness to students and some of the ways the community is involved, certainly through traditional means like physical education classes, health classes, and recess, as well as there's a big promotion at all schools. It varies a bit by school, but to promote developmentally appropriate movement breaks throughout the day for students. There are lots of evening and extracurricular activities. Again, those will vary a lot by school. Some might be seasonal, some might be year-round. Some schools do kind of big events a couple times a year, and that promotes wellness to families. So the students, the staff, their families, as well as community members will come in and support. Like we've had dance studios come in and promote exercise, karate studios, and throughout the school year in class as well, sometimes local businesses that do things in terms of exercise will come in. For one example I'll mention is a dance teacher who came in and did some exercise activities with students. So those are just a couple of the ways that we're promoting wellness to students with, and also involving the community.
So at this time, if the board is ready, we would like to read the revisions into record. I will read a portion of the policy, and then Rick will read the second half. Merrimack School Board Policy entitled Wellness. The district is committed to providing positive, safe, and healthy learning communities at every level to ensure that staff and students have the opportunity to achieve overall well-being. The district recognizes the importance of delivering high-quality wellness education. Specifically, this policy establishes goals and procedures to ensure that the district offers access to healthy foods that are aligned with the USDA guidelines, as well as quality nutrition education that helps develop lifelong healthy eating behaviors. Provides physical education and physical activity programs. Provides instruction in the areas of social emotional, and mental health intended to nurture overall well-being. Establishes and maintains an infrastructure for management, oversight, implementation, communication about, and monitoring of the policy and its established goals and objectives. Headline: Nutrition Guidelines and Education. The school district's nutritional standards are based upon standards established by the USDA and New Hampshire Healthy School Coalition / best practices. These nutrition guidelines apply to all foods available to students on school grounds during the day, including but not limited to school lunch, breakfast program, and foods and beverages sold in student vending machines / school stores. The district aims to teach, model, encourage, and support healthy eating habits. Schools will provide educational programming that will provide students with the knowledge and skills necessary to promote and protect their health. Schools shall encourage the integration of balanced food options during celebrations and events.
Headline: Physical Education and Activity. The district recognizes that the integration of healthy physical education and physical activity are a communal responsibility intended to minimize health risks created by extended periods of inactivity, childhood obesity, and other related health problems. The district encourages students and staff to participate in developmentally appropriate physical activity and exercise for 60 minutes each day as a way to minimize these health risks. Schools will work to integrate health and physical activity across the school curriculum, as well as to encourage the integration of physical activity before, during, and after school hours. Second page, headline: Mental Wellness. The Merrimack School District is committed to supporting the social, emotional welfare, and behavioral needs of all students in the educational process. The district recognizes that social and emotional well-being is critical for academic achievement and success. Collaboration with students, parents, guardians, staff, and the community will be an integral part of this commitment to enhance our students' emotional, mental, and physical health. Headline: Implementation and Evaluation. A district-wide wellness advisory committee has been established with the purpose of assessing the nutrition and physical activity environment throughout the district and making recommendations to the school board for a comprehensive wellness program. The committee consists of representation from parents, students, the school district's food service program, the school board, administration, and an educator from each school. The policy will be monitored and progress evaluated with an annual report to the school board. As needed, the Wellness Committee will request that the superintendent notify the Merrimack School Board regarding any changes that have occurred in federal and state nutrition guidelines that need to be reflected in this policy. At least once every 3 years, the district will evaluate compliance with the wellness policy to assess the implementation of the policy. Thank you.
Thank you. We would like to request that the members of the board please take these revisions under advisement and respectfully request that the current policy be eliminated to be replaced by the one presented before you this evening. Thank you, and we will take any questions that you have at this time.
Are there any questions from the board? Michael?
I just wanted to make a statement that I thought that the expanded scope of the policy was well written and well thought out. I do appreciate everybody's time that's been put into this and look forward to the advisory committee and what they come forward with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Naomi?
I would just voice my agreement with that. The difference between the two, the first one was perfectly fine, but the difference is very, very apparent and welcome. Thank you.
You're all set, Cinda? Yeah. Excellent. And I congratulate you for a job well done. I think the Wellness Committee has been entrenched in this district for a long time. I think it's been recognized for the work it's done. I think the Healthcare Cost Containment Committee definitely takes what you do and disseminates that information, because I think what you're doing at the ground level is definitely an example to be set with all the buildings. So the policy, the work you're doing as a committee, I think it really is, it just mirrors what we want to see as a district for our educational standards. I think you're doing the same thing with the child, the staff, and making sure we have a healthy environment for them to thrive. So this is great work. I think this is a great first draft, and I don't think so far there are any questions of revising the draft. So this may just move one of our more quicker policy reviews. Who knows? One can dream.
Thank you.
So if there's no questions of the policy and it's writing, Cinda?
I actually do have a question, and maybe someone could explain a little bit more to me. It was regarding the line that schools shall, under nutrition guidelines and education, in that section, it's the line that says schools shall encourage the integration of balanced food options during celebrations and events. So one thing that came to mind would be, like at the middle school, there's the event that is at Camp Sargent for the middle school kids, and so they usually end it with like a pizza party.
Mm-hmm.
What does this policy look like to that event, to that?
Dave, do you want to speak to that?
Well, I think it's encouraged that they choose good options, and there's nothing that's a restriction, but it's we want to make the options available that they will use good judgment when they do celebrations such as that. And I think as far as the pizza party that was picked, I'm not sure if they used other options that they might have had fruit or water or something like that along with it, but we hope that they made good selections when they chose that.
Cinda, if I may, I'd like to add, and I've experienced the pizza party, and it was wonderful, that I think we need to keep in mind that this kind of activity can be the exception in moderation, but hopefully not the norm, so that they can hopefully coexist.
So maybe, a recommendation that I might have would be just a statement like that, because once you have a policy and it's blanket, then it, certainly it makes sense, but we're talking like a very small tweak, that would allow for that exception, right, for a one-off. And that's life, right? You go through and you have one meal and it may not be the same as we do with the rest of our nutritional things, but if we're putting our rubber stamp on like a policy, I just want to make sure that it's either enforceable or it represents more broadly what we would do, because I would think that probably that pizza party happens a lot, whether it's with athletic events or as it's an easy go-to for people that to have a meal or a quick treat or a change. So maybe there's a way that we approach that, but like I was saying, it was just a thought that came to my mind.
Thank you.
Michael?
I'm just going off of Cinda's comment. So I understand what you're stating. I think that in regards to the policy, I'm not sure that we have to go into that much detail. I do see that's balanced food options, so I think it does cover it, but I think what may be missing is guidelines for the schools that don't have to be maybe in the policy itself, but maybe some guidelines of what expectations should be if an event or celebration is going on. Not necessarily, again, in the policy itself, but kind of as maybe coming out of that committee or something like that, saying, this is what we have as guidelines of what is a balanced option and stuff like that. So
I know that at the elementary levels, and I would have to speak with my colleagues at the middle and high school level, we do include such a guideline in our parent handbooks that goes home and kind of talks about those balancing out of, not cupcakes for every event, the holiday parties that we have, the birthday events, more common at the elementary levels, but to integrate those balanced food choices and maybe not have everything even be food-based in the way of how we celebrate activities. So it's not necessarily called out in detail in the policy, but we do have some guidelines that are mentioned in the handbooks, and I can certainly get that information from my colleagues about the middle and high school.
Cinta?
No, that would be great. And certainly it wasn't a criticism. This is a really well-written policy. It's clear that you put a lot of work into it, and I think it really does reflect as a district in some of the work that we're doing all over the place, really, with the district, whether it's communication committee, whether it's, you know, boots on the ground, day to day, the mental health committee. I think I could go on and on and on. I think that this policy does a good job of really expanding the direction that we're going with wellness in the district. So I would say well done. I just am notorious for trying to find like situations to to poke holes. But this is very well done, and I appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you. I would like to also just extend a special thank you, appreciation to the members of the Mental Health Committee, because they did work in partnership with us to offer language that would really speak to the tenets in the revised policy. So we appreciate their partnership and contributions to it. Definitely strengthened the policy that's presented here before you tonight.
Excellent. And with no other questions from the board, we thank you very much, and we look forward to the second reading at our meeting on the 19th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Excellent. Now we're on to our next agenda item, which is item number 7, which is the outcome from the Leaning Forward Academy. Welcome to the table, Helen Fitzgerald. Mark, if you'd like to introduce.
Sure. Well, while Mrs. Fitzgerald is setting up, I just would, by way of context setting, say this. I think every school system has probably a number of people in their systems who are really go-to people who really go above and beyond. And Mrs. Fitzgerald in Merrimack is one of those people for us. And I think that Helen has done as much for our district as really anybody that I could point to. And from serving on the professional development committee to being a math facilitator to working in 2 buildings, for all of her contributions to technology. And it is for that reason that when a few years ago it came to our attention that there was an opportunity to sponsor a staff member to attend the Learning Forward Academy, which Mrs. Fitzgerald is going to describe to you in a minute. Helen, it was the first person that came to mind because she is that kind of person for us in our district. And part of the effort that she will explain to you has been bigger than Massapequa Upper Elementary School. It's really provided an opportunity for our district to grow in ways that she'll describe. So just by way of introduction, it's because of Helen's far reach in the district that she was an obvious person to go to and say, hey, do you want to take part in this? And so she did. So that's my introduction and my thanks to Mrs. Fitzgerald for what she does for our district.
Button.
Again? Thank you. Thank you. So I was part of Learning Forward. It's a professional learning opportunity that is all over the United States. And the group of people that I was with, my team, we were called the Overachievers. I had a Department of Ed from Utah, Jeannie. I had Cindy from Illinois. I had John Hood, who was a principal, in Georgia. I had Mike Murphy from Texas, Bill Ripley from Tennessee, who was an assistant superintendent. Oh my gosh, there was more. There was Cindy from Illinois and Stacy from Ohio. So we were put together as a group, and we had to come up with a problem. But when I went there, I really feel some of the gains that I have found. So in doing this, I increased the professional development of the teachers of Merrimack in terms of mathematical practices. The 8 mathematical practices are the love of my life. They teach kids how to think, how to model mathematics, how to talk about it, and totally everything that the kids talked about tonight. That's what it was about. The other part that I was important about was math fact fluencies. If you don't know your facts, you can't understand the content. So if you are thinking about a 5th or 6th grader looking at reducing fractions, if they don't understand their facts, the content is a double-edged sword. They have to learn the facts, they have to learn the content, they have to understand the content. How can they do it without their facts? So we developed math fact fluency, and the third part of it is the professional development around problem solving. There is a whole aspect as to how do I go about reading a problem, understanding the problem, solving it, talking to you about it, and then explaining my way is totally different than your way, but we both came up with the same answer. The application process I had was Fred Brown. He gave me a phone call, and he's the director, and he wanted to know what was I thinking about in terms of my problem. And we spoke for about 2.5 hours. This gentleman and asked me all aspects about how I was going to design it, what was I thinking in terms of it being accomplished for the kids in Merrimack and for the teachers. And so with that, I was accepted into the program. It was 2.5 years. It was 12 meetings. Some of the meetings I had were face-to-face. Some of them were totally online, where we would meet 6 o'clock at night because we could go across the time zones, and we would talk to one another over the internet and FaceTime. And just to see what everybody was doing, because you're thinking about somebody that's in Utah to Texas to New Hampshire. And I was the first person from New Hampshire ever being part of this program. So when people would ask me in the wintertime where I'm coming from and talking to a woman from Hawaii, I was totally in a different climate than she. Some of the standards we looked at was student learning and educating learning, and the many opportunities that teachers could offer their students. In this part, they had us we had homework every night. We had to think about our learning communities, the resources, the data that we were going to ask to gather, what would be our learning designs, how were we going to implement this, what was going to happen, and what were our outcomes. We really worked backwards. If you want this to happen, how do you have it happen? And so with that, this was the first book they had us read. My book is all sticky notes and underlined, but basically it comes down to, it was written by 2 people, Stephanie Hirsch and Joellen Killian, and it was basically anything is possible if one persists. And so I thought about my problem of practice, and I definitely was persisting. Our coaches came from all parts. Jackie Kennedy was our group's coach. She was from Texas. Mike Murphy, he ended up coming up to Boston and living in Boston as part of our work. And Todd Robinson, he was from Vancouver. So when you went to the group of 60 or 75 people, you would always meet specifically with your own coach, but you also had the other 2 as an alternative, as to they would listen to your problem and then want to know where you were going from there. They had us develop our problem of practice, what were our principles, what was our summary sentence, we called it our elevator talk. How were we going to evaluate things, and what were the standards that we were looking for? During this 2.5 years, these 4 people were our key presenters. Joellen Killian, she spoke to us about applying our work on a regular basis. Tom Gusky, he always wanted us to achieve in terms of learning and learners and then work backwards. So what were you reaching for, and then how do you get there? What's the change you want, and then where do you go from there? And then the last person was, the last 2 was Stephanie Hirsch and Fred Brown. And they are such a motivational piece to how do you go about taking what you want to see happen and then make it happen. So my goal, this is after many revisions and many conversations, this was my problem of practice, where I wanted to develop educator effectiveness and problem-solving practices of mathematics. And I wanted it to result in improving student achievement for all students. And so with that as my goal, I set out first with fact fluency. And fact fluency back in 2013, you'd hold up a flashcard and one kid would answer the problem instead. And so then what would the other 25 do? Well, it wasn't my turn, so I don't have to pay attention. So how do you take fact fluency so that you can engage all 27 kids at the same time? And so what in posing that question to the teachers, we came up with, okay, so what happens if I have a deck of cards, 13 decks of cards, and I can do fact fluency, back and forth with you? Oh, that's good. All right, what happens if I make my cards? That's good too. But then we also came up with the idea of taking all the facts on a piece of paper with the facts on one side and the answers on the other, put them in a plastic sleeve, a sheet protector sleeve, and you read off the 3rd column and I watch your answers to make sure you're right, and then we flip the paper and I read off the 4th column and you watch the answers. So both of us are engaged because you're listening to what I'm saying and double checking with the answers and vice versa. So we felt that way for 15 minutes was our fact fluency. It totally would engage every student. And our goal was the greens. The green graphs are our goals. Kids are coming in with the facts semi-known, but we wanted, this shows how many facts they can do in a minute. So there are so many children under multiplication that can do 0 to 10 facts in a minute. But we also wanted that 30 and above, that's 100 some odd students that can do 30 facts, and we wanted our average to increase. So we went the following year and we thought, okay, how do we get more students involved? So 30 and above, we had 199 students could do multiplication facts in a minute. 30 facts in a minute, and that was phenomenal. And an average, we're at 34. Next time we're going up, we got 30. So we're always watching how we can increase the number for all students. This is every student at the upper elementary school in grade 5. So here we are just recently. We just finished it, and our average, we have 114 students that can do 31 and above facts in a minute. So taking a student from when they come into the upper elementary school to the end of 5th grade. But we didn't stop there. We followed the success of the 6th graders, and they blew us away. So here we have the students in the 6th grade. They're able to do 30 facts in a minute. They would want 60 facts in a minute. Some kids can do 72 facts in a minute, and they can write down these numbers that quickly. We looked for, here we have 195, and this, where's my most recent? Come on. Okay, here's our most recent. We have 171 students that can do 31 facts or higher in a minute. And we were just, the students come and they graph themselves. So here's where a student gets to celebrate themselves. Kids are coming to the computer lab with their teachers 3 times a year, and they graph their own facts. They graph their fall, winter, and spring facts, and they get to see, are they succeeding? Are they getting better? So the blue is their goal. The students graph their first one, then they graph their second, and we celebrate any little bit that they increase. And then their purple is their most recent. And then they write a goal for themselves. So my highest is, whatever it is, I need to work on my lowest, okay? And what are you going to do about it? Well, at this point, we ask them to be very realistic, and they're not going to necessarily practice flashcards over the summertime, but they might play some online math games. And so this is an example of students coming together with their fact fluencies. Along with that, the teachers felt, well, we have some problem-solving strategies that need to be addressed. So we developed 3 writing prompts. And our first writing prompt, we deal with Skittles and focuses on decimals, and the students find out, okay, they can go to the store and they have so much money to spend, who spends the most money and how much they have left. They also talk about chocolate chip cookie recipe and fractions, where they have to take the dry ingredients and double the recipe and see if it will fit into a 19-cup container. The third problem, we've experimented a little bit of this. We've done this online in the computer lab, where the students have to come to the conclusion of looking at the perimeter or the area here, and they're going to cover the carpeting at a certain price. And so students in the problem on the left, they can do it 1, twice, 2 different problems, 3 different ways, and the teachers are seeing all the different ways that they come together in solving these problems. Likewise, on the right, it's grade 6 problem, a little bit higher, okay, a little bit harder, but the students determine which is the best way. In evaluating this, the teachers, we've developed a rubric, and so we have put together a rubric here that talks about terminology, math terminology, first, then, next, last sequencing. Can they explain it? Does it make sense that they're explaining? In other words, can I read your writing and I understand what you're trying to talk to me about? And so we went through, and the teachers right now are doing that. Along with this, we have RTI. So we have problem solving in terms of RTI. This is a Smarter Balance example that we incorporate using PowerPoints during RTI. And the teachers work on these problems with the kids so that they come to this type of a problem, they put the kids in teams, they talk collaboratively. How would I solve this problem? What is one way you would do it? What is another way I would do it? Well, I would do this first, and this is my answer. I would get this answer, add it with this answer. Here's my conclusion. Likewise, problems get a little bit harder. So here I am in a 6th grade problem, and I have to now come up with a formula. I don't necessarily want the answer, but I want you to tell me what formula. And in this case, I have 2 choices. There's 2 answers there that work for me, and I need to explain these answers. So the students, in doing this problem, they can either talk about the tulips, they can talk about the lilacs, put it all together, and they have to write a formula, not the answer. As well as all this is happening, here's our 8 mathematical practices. So we developed at the upper elementary school our 8 mathematical practices. We rewrote them, we posted them in our classrooms. We also had the Unified Arts teachers join us, and they developed their mathematical practices. So in amongst attending to precision, I could be in music class and I'm attending to precision just like I'm in phys ed attending to precision, or art. And so the teachers at our school incorporated the mathematical practices within their content. But in talking to everybody else, and that is another part, we ended up as math curriculum committee taking the 8 mathematical practices, and we developed them K-12. So there are 8 mathematical practices for the K-2 students that talk about so many spots, and then there's the 3 to 4 mathematical practices. Here's samples of the 5-6 we have a 7-8, and we have 9-12 where it teaches and it goes into slope and calculus and things that are more problem-focused for those. Our drawings were done by Ron DeLude. He is a phenomenal artist, a very humble person, but so this is just a sample of how we have taken something that we incorporated at one building and spread it all the way. So in reading, I can remember Marge saying to me, "And what book are you reading?" And I would have to say, "Oh, I can't say what I'm reading because this is what I read." So some of my favorite books up there, Learning Educator, Putting Practices into Action. We've done many PowerPoints from that that teachers incorporate within RTI and in their math classes. We've incorporated guided math skills, strategies for Common Core. That is a book that we read for all levels. We did it for 3 to 5, 6 to 8, and then there's a high school version of that book as part of the mathematical curriculum. Accessible Mathematics there by Stephen Linewood. I saw him as a speaker. What's math got to do with it? Mark recommended that to us. So as you're reading books all about problem-solving strategies and how to incorporate these thinking and ways to do it, it's not anymore 3 times 4 is 12. It's how do I take this problem, explain how I did it, all the different angles of finding it, and coming out with many ways to get the same answer. So when we were in school, you were taught one way, this way, that's it. Now it's here's a problem, how can I do it? 3 different ways to get to the answer, and my way can be totally different than your way, yet both of us get to the correct answer. And the last part was, this is part of the group that I went with to Vancouver. And we finished there. When we were in Vancouver, the conference is this immense building that I have never seen a building so big in my life. When you sit down for your lunch, you have a guest speaker that's there, and in trying to estimate the number of people that were sitting down for lunch at the same time was 3,500 people. The immensity of the people that are there, you're sitting across talking to people from Alaska that just flew in on the plane, that land in the water outside of the center. You talk to people from Hawaii. We talked to people from Singapore. A gentleman was talking to us about how in Singapore, the kids know the answers, but they all want to shield their answers. They don't want to share their answers, where we foster collaboration and explaining your answers. So what the handout that I gave you was on the back. It's the graduating class of 2016, and I was part of that 2016 group. I'm the first person from New Hampshire. I'm the only person from New Hampshire so far. But right now they have set out a 2017 and a 2018 group are already there. But the organization fosters professional learning for all educators, no matter what part you're at. So then came the last meeting, and the last meeting was kind of sad. So here we had this gentleman, Stephen Barkley, talk to us, and his whole piece was there is no mountaintop in teaching. If you take everything you know and you stick it inside a balloon, then the outside of the balloon is what you still have to learn. So with that in mind, I was thinking, so what's next? So this here is a sample of how I did my learning plan. My learning plan for Learning Forward was everything was online. When my coach in Texas wants to read, we didn't send emails, very little. We did everything on Learning Forward. Here I have my learning plans. I have all my parts are in here so that I could go in here, write a reflection, say what I'm doing, do my plan, what's my problem of practice, where's my update. I didn't carry a suitcase full of books. Everything was here. And so I thought, okay, how can we take this that we did all online and turn it into our individual professional development plan for Merrimack. So here's my next piece. So this is like what's next. Our individual professional development plan is set up as a binder, and you meet with your administrator, you set a goal, you meet with your administrator, year 1 update, year 2 update, year 3 update, and then you come to your conclusion of the purpose, the method, and those parts. So how do you take that and put that into my learning plan? And so that's what I have set up. So I've taken I'm a year 2020, so this is my 2020 was going to be our IPDP plan. And so we spoke with Jen, I think, has set it up with us. Lene has helped us so very much in formulating this. Marsha McGill has come on board as my principal, so that when we set this up, I'm able to set it up in my learning plan. It goes to her. She's able to instantly see it. Then she can write a comment, sends it back to me. I get to instantly see it, and then it gets marked complete, and then it continues on. So we're excited about this piece to be our next part that we're going to roll out to the district in terms of the people that are 2020s. Well, that's my piece.
So any questions? I love it. That's a lot. Any questions from the board? So, I think she covered it. So the questions I had, I know you've been in a lot of committees that I've been sitting in and have been quite the facilitator. I know that with professional development, you've always tried to get programs together for teachers that want to learn over the summer to be able to use those skills in the classroom in the fall and have those tools available to them for their use. Where do you see this facilitating going forward with the teachers in the district? So is it through the math committee? Is it individual teachers looking to refine their skill sets? Where does this go?
So the fact fluency continues. The problem solving is expanding because teachers are now thinking in terms of how do I do this. They're more comfortable with problem solving skills. They're more comfortable with teaching it to their students and then going through the process of how do I teach this to a student who you circle your answer, you box off the question, you come, you set it up, you go, what is your first, your then, your next, your last. Lots of professional development has already happened, so the teachers are looking at that problem solving, that fact fluency, and then in terms of math practices, they're there with incorporating there in their classrooms. They have them up there as their walls. And then taking that to the piece of, okay, how can I expand my professional learning in my IPDP and put it all online so that if I'm at home, if I want to send it off to my administrator wants to respond back to me, I can still have the face-to-face conversations, but I can also still take it to the next level. And this is that next level.
Excellent. Are there any questions from administrators? And Mark?
Well, I just want to say, so Helen talked about Ron DeLude being humble, and he is, and he contributed. I mean, he did the artwork that is now published in all the classrooms in the district. Helen is also humble. So to answer your question, what she has done in her work is she's a quiet influencer, and so her work on the district math curriculum and her work on the review of the math program that we've been up to this year has been transformational, and particularly around the 8 mathematical practices, which are fundamental in the standards. And so because of the work that Helen has done at JMUS around fluency, that has and is resonating district-wide just in terms of continued refinement of practice. And that work has also found its way into the development of the curriculum that's coming to its completion now, and you'll hear more about soon. So don't let her tell you that it isn't largely because of Helen that a lot of this work is really taking root in the district, because it is.
Excellent. Thank you. Cinda.
And just a side note, I really appreciate your enthusiasm. You can just see that you're very excited about it, and that kind of excitement is contagious. So it's really exciting, and thanks for coming to tell us all about it.
No other questions? Thank you so much. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
a job well done.
Thank you.
And we look forward to more work with professional development. You guys are awesome. And we will.
Thanks for being patient.
Yeah, you're patient. It's a long night tonight. So we have coming up. Wow, it's item number 8, which is the response to the board's request regarding historical insurance rates. Matt Chevanel.
Yep. Thank you. When last we were talking with New Hampshire Primex about workers' compensation and property and liability insurance, the question came up is what was our historical rate increases. So on workers' comp, you have them in a memo, but I'll just read them out loud so the public can catch that. In 2013 for workers' comp, it was 8%. 2014, 8%. 2015, 8%. 2016, there was a jump to 16. In 2017, it was a 10% increase. On property and liability, there was a 3% increase in 2013, a 7% increase in 2014 and 15. 2016 was 10%, and 2017 was 3%. So I believe that's the information that was asked of me to get from Primex.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any questions on the data presented? Michael?
Thank you for this information. One of my questions was more of a historical or a level of understanding of where we are for our cost of the insurance compared to what's on the market. And maybe I wasn't fully clear with that. I was trying to understand that by locking ourselves into this agreement, that we are in par with what the market could show. And I think part of the conversation was that possibly there wasn't other insurance out there that could cover us, but it wasn't just primarily on the increases, but just to make sure that we're not going into an agreement that hasn't been priced out for 5 years.
Well, looking is historically what I can remember from when we were with Hanover and Travelers, we're not paying anything significantly greater now than we were back then. The rates are pretty comparable even after, the years have gone by. To get rates, I need 5 years of loss run histories from Primex on workers' comp and property liability. I have to hire a broker, and then I have to go out and shop it in the open market, and that's probably a 2-month process. So that's something that can't be done from one board meeting to the next. I can say with all surety that the rates we're paying now are not significantly greater than those that we were paying 6 years ago before we entered Primex.
Excellent. In that 6 years, a lot's happened. The other thing I think that was brought up, too, that the limited risk we have by going with an organization like Primex because it's a controlled risk pool, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that limits the exposure to, what we can be sued for. Whatever.
Well, the
level of
statute, and Carl talked about it, Carl Weber talked about it, the statute is for liability because it's an insurance exchange and not an insurance company, that the maximum exposure you have or they have for something that we would get ourselves into is $275,000. Now, that's if somebody, if it was proven that we were negligent because of something in our parking lot and somebody tripped and fell, the most they could get if we were indeed negligent would be $275,000. If we were on the commercial end, it could be upwards of $5 million, depending on the severity and whatever the courts would say. So that's one of the advantages you have with the exchange, because there is a level of certainty that they have when they write coverage, knowing that the most they're ever going to pay out on any sort of libelous suit would be $275,000 and not $5 million. they don't have the exposure that the other companies on the commercial market do.
Okay, that was. Thanks for the
That's a
clarity. That was
long
good.
answer, but I hope
But
you
no,
kind of
it was
understood it.
better long than incomplete, so that's good. Michael?
Just so I can understand, what is the yearly cost for this insurance?
It's around 140,000 for workers' comp and maybe 180-something thousand for property liability.
Thank you.
So with that, we have the opportunity to control any increase that comes our way. It's something that we were talking at the board's table at our last meeting about going forward with, or at least coming to a conclusion. Do we feel we have the information to move forward as a board at this point to make a decision one way or another as to whether or not to take those protections from Primex? Okay, so with that, I would be open to entertaining a motion to accept the caps.
Yeah, 3-year rate cap.
3-year rate
Correct.
caps, thank you. Cinda?
I will make a motion to accept the 3-year rate caps for our Primex insurance.
Is there a second? Seconded by Naomi. Did you want to speak to your motion?
I think that it makes sense from the position that we're at as a district. There's really nothing that seems to be competitive with it. So I would say that we continue and accept the caps.
Excellent. Do you have any questions or comments from the board? Naomi?
I appreciate the point of comparing all numbers always for everything and finding the best deal. But for me, over the conversation today and the last time we talked, the advantages are relatively clear, and the advantages that would be granted by postponing in order to compare numbers that have a relatively predictable outcome just isn't worth that time.
Okay. Michael?
So I'm going to vote in favor of this, but I want to make a statement that in the future, I feel that if there are large sums, and I think that this is a large sum for the taxpayers, that I would like more information coming to the board to compare it. I hear all the positives. I see some of the information. I think it's valuable, but I'm just feel like with larger expenditures, there should be something to compare it against, like hard facts, not just, well, we did it 5 years ago or anything like that. I'm going to go based off of what I've heard based off of the 275 for the insurance, but obviously there's going to be circumstances in the future that may come up, and I would hope that more information would come forward with the presentation to start with, especially considering it's been 5 years since the last time it's been reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you. I would say that I know that we have an opportunity to control costs, and that's something as a board I think we always need to take the opportunity when it's presented to us to do. In a market that has volatility like insurance coverage, to have something where we know we have a steady and predictable growth, it's a cap, so we can always be below it. We just can't go above it. So we're not, the one thing I want to be clear on is we're not guaranteeing an 8% increase. We're guaranteeing a limit of exposure to 8%. And that's, I think, what was important to me about their presentation. So, you know, it can go lower, but it can't go higher. I like to protect the taxpayer because I hate spikes to the tax rate that we could have avoided. The other thing is obviously this offer is not something, it came to us quickly, but it also, you know, came to us with, I think, a limited time offer. We had to make a decision in a shorter term. And I think doing it tonight just gives us the opportunity to move forward and get more of the district's work done. So our exposure is limited. It can be better, but it can't be any worse than the cap. So I'm content. So with that, I'll call the motion to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none. And the motion carries 4-0-0. So go forth and control costs.
If I could just
Yes,
say one last thing. Yeah, this doesn't preclude us from looking at it in the future. Remember,
Sure.
this is for 3 years, so this would be for the next 3 years. 3 years goes by awfully quickly, and in that time, we could do some research, wait for some more loss runs to come out because we had a couple of years of bad history here. wait for those to wash out, and then go on the open market and see what it looks like at that point in time. But I think for the short term, for the next 3 years, it gives us time to explore that, because that market is constantly changing to see where it went. I recall years ago when there were particular issues revolving not only public schools but religious organizations, that on the private market our premiums for property and liability went up $25,000 because of a certain segment of the population was having issues, and it was just a bad period in time years ago. So I think the 3 years, stick with Primex. We know we have training, we have resources, and then it'll give us some time to do a good job and get a good comparative, because that's the part of the hardest thing, is doing a good comparative. I'm not an insurance expert. I can read a little bit of the policy and understand, but to sit down and try and compare the commercial policy to what's offered with Primex and weigh the pros and cons, it really takes a lot of work, and a professional who's independent from the bidders to come in and do that work for you. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Michael?
I'd just like to follow up, because I do feel that this is the right way to go. Obviously, that's why I voted for it. And I do feel very confident in everybody that's reviewed it and the information that was provided. I think what I'm looking for is just, I guess, more backup for the taxpayers to easily view it if they were to come across it and not hear this conversation or anything like that, to kind of just be able to say, oh, okay, it's pretty clear why they went that way. I think that a lot of information was provided, but without a comparison, it's just the transparency, I guess, is what I'm looking for the comparison. So, but I do believe that this is the right thing to go forward with. Thank you.
Naomi?
I'm just going to wade in with my agreement. I'm completely confident in the decision that we made. It would have made it a little easier to evaluate it had some of that information been collated. I took a little bit of struggling at first to find my feet in the presentation when it happened. So just not to leave you alone out there with your reaction to it. Okay.
Thank you. So with that, we will move on to item number 9, which is the request to hire at will with Marge.
Thank you. So as you know, we have one more board meeting before the end of our fiscal year, which is June 19th. Then we go into the summer months, and we will only be planning on having one board meeting in July and one in August. Because we're still going to have professional people to hire, and knowing that the board wants the very best candidates that we can find, what I ask is that you allow us, give us the authority to be able to put these people in place prior, in some cases prior to the actual board meeting, when they will be on the nomination sheet for you to properly elect. But this keeps the person from going to another district, and that's what we're trying to do. So there won't be that many. I mean, you can see by looking at the nomination list tonight that we are moving ever forward, but I will tell you that there will be a few positions that will still need to be hired.
Cinda?
I will definitely support that. I know that it's pretty standard for what we've done in the past to be able to not have things come to a halt because we're not meeting as frequently. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So we'll make a motion. Cinda?
I would like to make a motion that we allow our superintendent and the district administration to be able to have the authorization to hire at will during the summer months.
Is there a second? Seconded by Michael. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none. The motion carries 5-0-0, and we just avoided a bunch of special meetings this summer. So, thank you. Thank you all. We're on to item number 10, which is establish summer school board meeting dates. We're not establishing summer school. So I will put that over to Marge as well. Or actually, it's staying with me. So Marge picked a couple of dates that she thought might fit our schedules. Michael, I know you mentioned you'd be unavailable the first couple of weeks, but I think you'd be back in time for this meeting. Cinda, I know you're not physically here in August, but you would be available to dial in from your destination.
Correct.
And Andy, those 2 meeting dates also fit. I know that he got back to me. And you're also good, Naomi, so I think we are actually all set. So we will make those meeting dates official. So our July meeting will be on Monday, July 17th. Our August meeting will be on Monday, August 14th. And that will put 3 weeks in between each meeting, and I think that will give us good spacing. We're on to the housekeeping, item number 11, the approval of the May 15th and May 22nd, 2017 minutes. Do I have a motion? Made by Michael. Do I have a second? Seconded by Naomi. Are there any edits to the minutes? Okay.
On page 6, line number 232, it's a very minor change, but it reads, Board Member Gualiumi would like to see the monetary impact of the school lunch program. And I just put, Board Member Gualiumi would like to understand the monetary impact on the school lunch program.
Okay. Are there any others? Seeing none, we'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none. The motion carries 4-0-0. On to item number 12, the acceptance of gifts and grants under $5,000 with Matt Chevanel.
Thank you very much. This is a very generous gift to James Mastrocola Upper Elementary School from the Girl Scout of the Green and White Mountains, Troop 20113, P.O. Box 1593 in Merrimack, New Hampshire, in the amount of $1,400 to purchase a water bottle filling station at the Upper Elementary School. Marcia McGill's met with Tom Tussaud. They picked out a suitable location that has both power and access to water, so they will have a filtered water bottle filling station in the Upper Elementary School. Compliments of the Girl Scouts.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Do we have a motion? Cinda, you're on a roll.
I am. There's one less of us, or one fewer, I should say, to be grammatically correct. I would like to make a motion that we accept the gift of $1,400 from Girl Scout Troop 20113 to James S. Mastrocola Upper Elementary School for a water bottle filling station with our gratitude.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Michael. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none. The motion carries 4-0-0. On to item number 13, which is consent agenda with Dr. McLaughlin. Mark.
Thank you. On as consent tonight are the following teacher nominations. Ashley Gamache, language arts teacher at Merrimack Middle School. There's a correction on the second name. It's Harley, Harley, Harley Hall, social studies teacher at Merrimack High School. Morgan Ireland, grade 2 teacher at Mastrocola Elementary School. Jamie Lawrence, oral language teacher at Merrimack High School. Tabitha Pariseau, language arts teacher at Merrimack Middle School. Ryan Piper, special education teacher at Merrimack Middle School. And Catherine Russo, grade 3 teacher at Reeds Ferry School. And in addition, there's the following teacher resignation. Michael Jackson, special ed teacher at Mastrocola Upper Elementary School.
Is there a motion? I will move to I will move to accept the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a second, please? Seconded by Naomi. The second side of the table. The second side of the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None. The motion carries 4-0-0. We have 14, which is other. Is there any correspondence to come before the board? Cinda.
I had one parent speak with me regarding the summer calendar or the school district calendar, just asking questions regarding why we didn't do the extension of the program, the extension of the school days like other districts had.
Like minutes?
Yeah, like by minutes. And I had explained the methodology and how we were able to shorten the school year without having to go that route. And she was satisfied with my response.
Excellent. Is there any other? Oh my goodness! Any other correspondence to come before the board? Cinda, you've got.
There was one more.
More.
One more I forgot. I had a parent reach out to me specifically asking if we will plan to review the school dress code anytime in the near future.
Okay. And seeing no other correspondence, are there any comments to come before the board? Marge.
So this is just a forecast for you for June 19th. I'm trying to tell you before the next board meeting about some upcoming items, not all items, but some items. So it will be the last focus on a school, which will be Reeds Ferry Elementary School, at which time you'll be able to highlight Kim Yarlott being the New Hampshire Elementary Principal of the Year. Ken will come before you to talk about the comprehensive course evaluation that was how it went this year and kind of the outcome. You will hear about the math textbook selection, the process that was employed, and what was determined based on student, parent, and faculty input. And we are going to try and conduct an initial full-day conversation about kindergarten, full-day kindergarten conversation, I should say. The 3 elementary principals have formed a committee. They have done some investigations, some visitations, and what they're going to be seeking from you is information that you would want collected, data that you would want collected to be used when we come back and have a more formal proposal in the fall. So this will give you a good chance to dialogue with us about expectation. So before we come to you with a proposal, this is called the weighing in, and if we need to have a second weighing in, that will be done as well. But we are making ready for the budget that you'll get in December.
Okay. Is there any new business to come before the board? Seeing none. Are there any committee reports? Cinda.
I have 2 committee reports. Last week, I first had a meeting with the district parents group. It was a nice kind of year-end recap to talk about some of the successes the various groups have made at their respective schools. And it's always very motivating to hear their enthusiasm and to really appreciate more of what we heard here just recently of how hard they work. And it was neat to see them share ideas and so forth. And we talked about some items they would like to see in the fall to be able to kind of share and grow from each other. So there was that. Secondly, I had a safeguard meeting. Basically, it was our last safeguard meeting of the school year. Deborah Wolfline had stepped down. She has been dutifully with that organization for a long time and still stayed with us, even though she had retired from our district and doesn't live in our community. And so our assistant superintendent, Mark McLaughlin, will be the, what is the title? You're kind of acting chair.
I'm going with emperor.
Yeah.
I don't know. Acting, I suppose.
Yeah. The acting chair, at least for the time being. The one thing that came up across both groups, the district parent groups and the safeguard, is really the struggle to get involvement from either the community or parents. So I think that that's something that, I would say both groups, it's a common theme, are struggling with. And at the same time, I think there's really some exciting things that will be coming out of Safeguard next year. I think we've talked about maybe doing some education series and things like that. So, and kind of getting a fresh start in the fall with some of the ideas that we can all share to get a good start to the next school year.
Any other committee reports? I had one. The Greater Woods Subcommittee met on May 16th, which was the after our last meeting, and there is an Eagle project coming before us that will redo the outdoor classroom. So it's the benches are kind of weathered and worn and not really used right now, but it's going to get resurrected. It's on town property, so it'll be vetted through the town council versus the school district, although it basically is right over the line from our property. So we'll have a great opportunity to bring the kids back out there. The Eagle Scout or Eagle candidate gave some thought to some feedback that we gave about its design, its structure. It's going to be made with concrete base first, and then wood plank, so that way it'll have a more long-term sturdy foundation. And then if anything needs to be changed, it's going to be the top boards mainly, and the design will make that fairly manageable as well. So it's a really well thought out project, and we look forward to him fundraising, and hopefully I will be plugging whatever fundraiser he does at this table, and supporting him any way we can. The Bambi Lane Bridge, which was supposed to be done in February, it was too frozen. Based on current weather, I'm surprised it's not still too frozen, but that was worked on last weekend. I'm not sure if it was completed. We'll know more at our June meeting on what's left to be done. And then they're updating all their maps and signs. The Nashua Regional Planning Commission worked with us to GPS the property. So the maps are going to be a lot more scientifically accurate. They're going to have a lot more detail. And it'll integrate both the middle school and the total property, but it will outline the middle school property within it. And with that, there will be notations in the guidebooks, the guide brochures about what the limitations of use are on school district property. So we are moving along at a very good pace. So that's what I had. I would say public comments on agenda items, but we're not even speaking to tens of people like our actress was earlier. So we will close public comments. We'll take a moment to sign the manifest. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, made by Michael. The seconds took over, then seconded by Naomi. Excellent. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, none. The motion carries 4-0-0. Thank you and good night.